The Throne of the Mechas. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1676 Surprise. Xia Xingchen carried Colos's body back to their apartment. He personally replaced Carlos' spare parts, wiped off the oil on his body, and replenished his energy. Xingchen, why did you agree to fight them in the life and death arena? Those three people are the best in the new training, and they are very strong. You can't be their opponent. Carlos could no longer endure it and said angrily, after my calculation, your chance of winning is only 1 in 100,000. It's too unwise. You don't have to worry about my life or death. At worst, I will quit the training. I don't need you to take risks for me. Carlos, don't worry. Xia Xingchen pressed his best friend on the sofa and smiled mysteriously. I have a surprise for you. Surprise? Carlos shook his head. We are at the end of our rope. What kind of surprise can we have? Xia Xingchen did not explain, and pulled Carlos to connect to the universe, entered the transfer island, and walked straight to the door of the Summer Star store. The store was still closed with a sign saying close D. The shelves were still empty, just like before, but Carlos was completely shocked. Impossible. According to my calculations, the deadline for breach of contract has already arrived. Summer Stars should have been taken back by the Universal Company, and this place should have become an empty space. Why is it still there? Carlos quickly opened his account, his expression even more shocked. Not only was his account not in debt, but there was also a huge amount of more than 2 million Universal coins. What was going on? Even though Carlos was a top artificial intelligence with computing power that surpassed the largest quantum computer in the Milky Way, he couldn't figure out what was going on for a while. Xingchen, is it you? Did you sell the last dream fruit? Carlos' eyes fell on Xia Xingchen, guessing. But dream fruit is a new type of plant cultivated by genes. It is not included in the list of goods in the universal universe. It must be analyzed and reviewed by an authoritative organization before it can be sold. Besides, even if you are lucky and sell the dream fruit, the money is not enough to pay the huge penalty. Carlos shook his head, looking confused. I sold the dream fruit? Haha, that's a chance for you and me to make a fortune. How could I bear to sell it? Xia Xingchen smiled slightly. I just dealt with all the orders that were about to default. Impossible. The warehouse star was destroyed, and all the goods were written off. How did you deal with them? Oh my god, all of them are 5-star reviews. How did you do it? Carlos was stunned. Even if he personally managed and operated Summer Stars, it would be impossible to guarantee a 100% positive review rate. After all, customers are from all over the universe, and many of them have strange personalities, and are very difficult to serve. Have you forgotten? I can create things. Xia Xingchen smiled slightly, stretched out his right hand, and a brand new 7 vibration harp slowly condensed in the air. Creation. Wait a minute. Let's go back and talk. Carlos was stunned, and hurriedly stopped Xia Xingchen, cut off the connection with the universe, and returned to the apartment. Xingchen, you said last time that you know how to create things, and you have created elemental cores. Carlos asked eagerly, can you show me how? Of course. Xia Xingchen nodded, and in front of Carlos, he transformed his mental power into matter, and created the unfinished 7 vibration harp. But Carlos brushed his hand over the 7 vibration harp, and a wonderful rhythm came out. How could it really be created? Carlos took a breath, his face full of shock, looking at Xia Xingchen with eyes like a monster. What's so strange about creation? Isn't the transformation of matter the threshold to becoming a celestial being? Xia Xingchen looked strange. Carlos was speechless for a while, and didn't know how to explain for a while. After a long time, Carlos spoke. Xingchen, do you know what you just did? Creation. Xia Xingchen scratched his head, still confused. Of course I know. Carlos was anxious. Creation is indeed the threshold to becoming a celestial being. For example, I have also mastered the technology of material energy conversion. However, it is easy to convert matter into energy, but the energy required to convert energy into matter is extremely terrifying. Where is your energy source? How did you make this 7 vibration harp? After Kolo's explanation, Xia Xingchen suddenly realized. Creation is not difficult from a technological perspective. Most celestial beings have the ability to create. The difficulty lies in the huge amount of energy required for creation. In the celestial realm, energy and money can be equated. The energy consumed to create a craft like the 7 vibration harp has exceeded the price of the 7 vibration harp. This is why other celestial beings will not use creation to make crafts, because it is too uneconomical. However, Xia Xingchen has the source of faith. The power of faith in the source of faith is a special spiritual energy, which is more refined than ordinary spiritual power. Due to the support of the faith of the entire galaxy, the source of faith is constantly charging, and the excess power of faith is stored in the faith cage. It can be said that Xia Xingchen is like carrying a giant power bank with him. For other celestial beings, the creature that is very uneconomical is a great opportunity for Xia Xingchen to make money. It's the source of faith. Carlos knew that the source of faith existed, and Xia Xingchen did not hide it. He stretched out his right hand, and a pyramid emitting white light floated in his palm, slowly rotating, full of mystery. The source of faith of the Manco people. Have you cracked its secret? Carlos took a breath again. No. Xia Xingchen shook his head. The Manco people have used up the power of the entire race, but they have not studied it thoroughly. How can I crack it easily? However, I do have some usage, and I have some guesses about its origin. But it's just a guess. Next, Xia Xingchen explained to Carlos the specific usage of the source of faith, how to collect the power of faith, and then transform it into spiritual power through the art of refining the soul. Carlos was confused, and shook his head repeatedly. No, I don't understand. We mechanical people don't understand what spiritual power is, let alone what faith is. In short, the source of faith is a large energy source with infinite energy. You can convert the energy in it into any substance. Is this correct? It's not any substance. Xia Xingchen explained. I must understand the mechanism of this item. If it is a product of technology, I must understand the basic scientific principles. If it is a secret treasure in the universe, I must comprehend the mysteries it contains. For example, the super energy core. The technological level is too high. I can't make it. For example, the dream fruit contains life technology and the mysteries of the universe. I can't make it. Even for my beast god mecha, I can't use the creation to make the core parts, because I don't understand the basic principles of the beast god mecha at all. In fact, I can only make handicrafts, which are low-tech items that do not contain the mysteries of the universe. Of course, maybe the artistic level of these handicrafts is too low, so I can only imitate them. I don't understand art myself. Chapter 1677. Crazy money making. That's enough. If you can make a superpower core, that would be great. I'm afraid that in a few years, the richest man in the universe will be you. What are the top 10 gods? Carlos glanced at Xia Xingchen dimly. Just relying on your creation skills and the source of faith, you are an inexhaustible cash cow and a treasure pot. As long as you spend enough time, you can become a tycoon in the world of heaven and man. Xia Xingchen nodded. A sharp light flashed in his eyes. That's why I agreed to the challenge of Ivan and the other two. In these 3 months, I will make money like crazy, buy a superpower core, and be promoted to the first level of the galaxy level. In full view of everyone, I will defeat Ivan and the other two. I want everyone to know that I, Xia Xingchen, am not easy to mess with. No one can touch my friends. No one. Carlos, you will help me, right? Xia Xingchen looked at his best friend. Of course. Carlos was very excited, clenching his fists tightly, although 3 months is a bit short. But with your ability, you will definitely be able to earn 100 million world coins and buy a super energy core. Carlos has devoted 3 years of hard work to Xia Xingchen and is familiar with the operation of the entire store. After Xia Xingchen reopened, orders came in like snowflakes. Faced with a large number of orders, Xia Xingchen felt like a machine. Except for sleeping and eating time, he was using the creation skills to continuously create crafts on orders. Although Xia Xingchen felt very tired, he was still very happy to see the world coins in his account soaring, and he gritted his teeth and persevered. Excluding the various expenses of Xia Xingchen, Xia Xingchen and Colossus have 2 million world coins in their accounts every day. In the past, Xia Xingchen's daily turnover was also as much as 2 million world coins. However, that was turnover, and the real profit was only about 100,000. Carlos's policy was to make small profits, but quick turnover to build a good reputation for Xia Xingchen. However, Xia Xingchen's ability to create things does not require him to purchase goods. 2 million in turnover is pure profit. 2 million universal coins a day. In 3 months and 90 days, the profit will reach 180 million. Even Colossus couldn't help but smack his lips when he saw this amount. 3 months later, in apartment 5002, Xia Xingchen and Colossus saw that the amount in the account had reached the target, a full 180 million, and they were both very happy. Success. Cheers. Cheers. Xia Xingchen and Colossus both raised their glasses to celebrate this hard-won success. This day was also the day when Colossus's newcomer training ended. Colossus' final ranking was 11th. Even if he didn't make it into the top 10, he would still be qualified for the next stage of training. Colossus knew very well that with his hard work and strength, he could definitely make it into the top 10. But there was no way. Even in the so-called free and equal Star Trek mercenary group, those instructors had a big prejudice against the mechanical race, and finally gave him a low score, which made him lose the qualification for the next stage of training. If it was before, Colossus would have been very disappointed. But now, Colossus looked relieved. As long as you have money, you have everything. Anyway, the purpose of joining the Star Trek mercenary group is to make money. We made 180 million in 3 months. Such a high income even surpassed Gabriel's mercenary team. Colossus' face was not depressed at all. That's right. If you have money, you have everything. Xia Xingchen smiled and raised his glass. After 3 months of hard work, in addition to making a huge sum of money, Xia Xingchen's creation skills have become more proficient, and his mental power has also been greatly improved under high intensity work. However, Xia Xingchen knew in his heart that, after becoming a celestial being, the improvement of mental power could no longer rely solely on meditation. In that case, the speed of improvement was too slow. If Xia Xingchen relied on the secret treasure of the starry sky that could improve mental power, it might take hundreds of years for him to condense his spiritual nucleus by himself. The spiritual nucleus is the super energy core of the spiritual body. In the celestial world, the combat power of the Mecha Master is superior to that of the same level. The reason is very simple. To upgrade the level of Mecha Master, not only must the Mecha on the technology side be equipped with a super energy core. Moreover, the Mecha Master must also condense a spiritual nucleus on the spiritual side to be able to manipulate the machine with a huge increase in energy. Generally, a celestial being only needs one super energy core to upgrade its level. But a Mecha Master needs 2. The difficulty of upgrading the level is twice that of an ordinary celestial being. Naturally, the strength is extraordinary. Xingchen. Colossus couldn't wait and opened the Mall of the Universe. Super Energy Core, 100 million universe coins. Spiritual 3-leaf fruit, 100 million universe coins. After Colossus checked, he found 2 items and said excitedly, as long as you buy these 2 items, you can become the first level of the galaxy. 200 million universe coins for 2 items. It's ridiculously expensive. Xia Xingchen took a breath and frowned, but we only have 180 million, and we are still short of 20 million. What should I do? It's indeed a little short of money. I'll talk to the seller and ask if we can get a discount if we buy 2 at the same time. Colossus said. As a result, Colossus almost wore out his lips, but the seller still insisted that this was the lowest price in the entire universe. Not even 1 universe coin was cheap. It must be 200 million universe coins. How do you do business? You are so stubborn. You don't even want to give a discount. Colossus secretly complained. There is no way. Other stores are indeed more expensive than this one. We only need 10 days to get 20 million star coins. The problem is that the life and death arena is right in front of us, and we don't have time. Xia Xingchen frowned. He had tried his best, but he didn't expect that he would still be short of 20 million universe coins in the end. Oh, right. Star Trek Mall. We are Star Trek mercenaries after all. There are some discounts when buying things in Star Trek. It must be cheaper than buying outside. Carlos slapped his forehead and suddenly said in surprise, "Yes, Star Trek Mall, how could we forget it?" Xia Xingchen was also overjoyed. Carlos opened the Star Trek Mall and quickly found the universe secret treasures of the super energy core and the condensed spirit nucleus. The price was also 200 million points, but a 1-star mercenary could get a 10% discount, which was exactly 180 million points. However, the condition is that a contract must be signed. The super energy core and the secret treasure of the universe must be used by the internal members of the Star Trek mercenary group. If they are as old to outsiders, a huge fine will be paid as punishment. Signed. Xia Xingchen bought it for his own use, so he had no scruples, and signed the contract immediately. 5 minutes later, 2 huge rectangular silver boxes were delivered. Chapter 1678 Galaxy Level 1. The boxes were opened. In one box was a 3-meter long black metal sphere, which was the energy storage device, the super energy core, with the logo of the Universal Company on it. The Star Trek mercenary group did not have the technological ability to develop the super energy core on its own, and also bought it from the Universal Company through special channels. In the entire universe, there are no more than 10 organizations and companies that can produce super energy cores. The Universal Company is the largest one among them. In another box, there was a strange fruit the size of a palm with a starry sky vortex on its surface. Kangming fruit. Carlos introduced. It is an extremely rare cosmic treasure that can greatly improve the spiritual power of the swallower. In theory, the price of Kangming fruit is higher than that of super energy core. After all, Kangming fruit grows naturally, but super energy core can be manufactured. But in fact, the price of super energy core and Kangming fruit is similar. This is because there are many more celestial races on the technological side than celestial races on the spiritual side. Moreover, celestial races on the spiritual side can also condense spiritual nuclei through other methods. But the races on the technological side, their own technological level is not enough, so they can only buy super energy core. This is a monopoly business, and it is very profitable. What about the life essence needed by the celestials on the physical side? Xia Xingchen asked with a thought. Same. The price is also 100 million. Carlos said. Well, Carlos, I will swallow the Kangming fruit now. The installation of the super energy core on the beast god mecha is left to you. Xia Xingchen ordered. In terms of mechanical technology, Carlos' level is much higher than Xia Xingchen. Xia Xingchen felt relieved to leave this matter to Carlos. Okay. Carlos nodded, his face excited. I can't wait to see how powerful your combat power will be when you are promoted to the first level of the galaxy. Xia Xingchen sat in the center of the room, holding the Kangming fruit in his hand, and felt the amazing spiritual fluctuations coming from it. He pondered for a moment, raised his head, and swallowed the Kangming fruit whole. But, with Xia Xingchen as the center, a huge spiritual power vortex appeared out of thin air, covering the entire room. In Xia Xingchen's consciousness, a huge spiritual planet was suspended in the air, and below was a vast spiritual ocean. The seawater had all turned into solid, like crystal clear. A huge spiritual vortex emitting black light appeared above the planet, and pure spiritual power surged out. The size of the spiritual planet became even bigger. Boom. Suddenly, the spiritual planet was completely shattered, and the spiritual power began to rotate with the vortex, and finally at the bottom of the vortex, it condensed into a fist-sized crystal core that flashed white light. How huge the spiritual planet was, and in the end it actually shrank, and condensed into a crystal core. The spiritual power was compressed to the limit. Xia Xingchen suddenly opened his eyes, and a light-like substance emanated from his pupils. The temperature of the whole room dropped rapidly, and the spiritual fluctuations emanating from Xia Xingchen turned into circles of white tracks visible to the naked eye. In Xia Xingchen's mind, the vortex was still slowly rotating, and the spiritual nucleus was shining in the center of the vortex. Success. I condensed the spiritual nucleus, and entered the first level of the galaxy level. Xia Xingchen smiled. Although the size of the spiritual nucleus has become smaller, the capacity of the spiritual power has increased instead. Before, without the help of the source of faith, Xia Xingchen's total spiritual power could not support him to cross the galaxy. But now, Xia Xingchen can drive the beast god mecha and cross the galaxy. Is this the first level of the galaxy level? Xia Xingchen clenched his fists tightly and felt the power surging in his body. On the other side, Carlos had also installed the super energy core on the beast god mecha. Xingchen, you give me a different feeling again. The sense of oppression is very strong. Your energy level is above the universe, a full 100 stellar units. Carlos exclaimed in shock. Yeah, I feel different too. Xia Xingchen took out a piece of metal from his personal space. It was the metal he had found in the space ring of the mechanical celestial being on the twin pearl star. It was called alpha alloy and was an extremely hard metal. But the alpha alloy was wrapped in a spiritual force and floated in front of Xia Xingchen. His eyes fixed. Boom. The alpha alloy turned into a pile of metal powder. Carlos widened his eyes and opened his mouth in shock. Carlos knew very well the strength of alpha alloy. The strongest part of his skeleton was made of alpha alloy. Xia Xingchen did not use the mecha, but only used his spiritual power to crush the alloy into powder. If Xia Xingchen drove the beast god mecha equipped with a super energy core, how terrifying would it be? Trial star, life, and death arena. The duel between Xia Xingchen and Ivan and the other two in the life and death arena had already spread completely. Xia Xingchen offended the Eternal God clan and was rewarded. Countless dark web killers want to kill him. At this critical moment, you actually dare to fight Ivan in the life and death arena? It's simply courting death. This newcomer named Ivan is so lucky. Kill Xia Xingchen and get a big reward. Hey, I'm much stronger than Ivan. It's a pity that I'm a Zingy mercenary and can't disobey Zingy's orders. When the news spread, Ivan and the other two naturally helped to stir up the flames. If Xia Xingchen didn't dare to fight, then his reputation would be ruined, and he would no longer have a foothold in the Zingy mercenary group. Many people gathered in front of the life and death arena. Most of them were newcomers who wanted to see the fight between Ivan and Xia Xingchen. There were also some old mercenaries who were very curious about Xia Xingchen. They didn't know what kind of ability this human boy from the edge of the Milky Way had to provoke the Eternal God clan. Among them, of course, there were also many mercenaries who wanted to please the Eternal God clan and sent the video of this battle to the Eternal God clan. Xia Xingchen, this coward, wouldn't he dare to come? He will die if he comes. If I were him, I would definitely not dare to come. Al is the second in this training of newcomers, and he is very powerful. Xia Xingchen doesn't even have the qualifications to participate in the training of newcomers, so he is naturally not Alvin's opponent. Alvin was already wearing red armor, standing on the life and death arena, talking to the two people beside him, Ferran and Edgar, with a look of contempt. Xia Xingchen is here. Someone exclaimed. Everyone looked up and saw a dark golden mecha figure appearing in the sky. Boom. The beast god mecha landed in the center of the life and death arena. In the cockpit, Xia Xingchen's face sank into the water. Xia Xingchen, you dare to come and die? Alvin smiled coldly. Today's battle is the day when Alvin makes a fortune. As long as Xia Xingchen can be killed, Alvin can get a lot of wealth and soar to the sky. Chapter 1679. Let's go together. Trial star, life, and death arena. Hundreds of Star Trek mercenaries gathered in front of the arena. They were all the best in the universe. Out of curiosity about Xia Xingchen, they came to watch the arena battle between Xia Xingchen and Ivan. Gabriel, Xingfeng, and Li Lang also came to watch the battle, standing at the front of the crowd. Captain, you are here. Carlos also arrived in front of the arena, and when he saw Gabriel and the other two, he stepped forward to greet them warmly. Carlos, what the hell are you and Xia Xingchen doing? Why did he challenge Ivan to a life and death arena? Isn't this courting death? Gabriel was furious and yelled at Carlos, go tell Xia Xingchen now to give up the life and death arena immediately. I will pay all the fines for him. Yes, Carlos. Although Xia Xingchen is a mecha master with strong combat power, he has defeated some strong men during the trial of heaven and man. However, those people are still weak after all. The newcomers of the Star Trek mercenary group are all monsters. Especially that Ivan, who is a monster among monsters with unlimited potential. With time, his achievements will surpass those of us. Go and persuade Xia Xingchen not to let him fight against a stone with an egg. Xia Xingchen was hidden by Xingyi, so it is normal for him to feel resentful, but he should not be so self-destructive. Xingfeng and Li Lang both shook their heads, thinking that Xia Xingchen's challenge to Ivan and the other two in the arena was no different from courting death. On one side was a down-and-out person hidden by Xingyi, and on the other side was an outstanding person who was valued by Xingyi and ranked among the top in the newcomer training. In fact, among the hundreds of mercenaries present, no one except Carlos thought that Xia Xingchen could win. Captain. Carlos shook his head and said in a deep voice, Xia Xingchen challenged them to fight in order to help me, but he was not acting on impulse because he was sure of winning. Sure win? Gabriel was slightly startled, and a strange emotion rose in the depths of his eyes, staring at Xia Xingchen and the huge dark golden mecha. Gabriel also arranged the double pearl start trial for Xia Xingchen and selected several teammates for him. But Xia Xingchen resolutely refused. For this, Gabriel was very angry and even scolded Xia Xingchen a few words, thinking that he was arrogant. But later facts proved that Xia Xingchen's decision was right. The teammates selected by Gabriel were confirmed to be killers. For this, Gabriel blamed himself very much and even lowered his status to apologize to Xia Xingchen. After that, Gabriel had already felt that Xia Xingchen was a little different from other celestial beings, and he could not be judged by common sense. He is so confident. Could he give me a bigger surprise? Gabriel nodded, with a faint sense of expectation in his heart. On the life and death arena, Xia Xingchen sat in the cockpit of the mecha, staring coldly at Ivan and the other two, with a strong power emanating from his body. He hooked his index finger at them and said contemptuously, I'm in a hurry, the three of you come together. Come together. Hearing these three words, everyone was stunned. Especially Ivan and the other two, their faces flushed, as if they were greatly insulted. Xia Xingchen, you actually want to fight 1 against 3? So rampant. You don't take us seriously at all. Well, let the facts tell you how big the gap between you and me is. Energy rushed in Ivan's body, and the strong energy fluctuations spread throughout his body, and his muscles swelled up. Boom. Ivan smiled coldly, stepped on the ring with his feet, and jumped high. He clenched his four fists tightly, and the violent palm wind blasted towards the beast god mecha like a tidal wave. Phelan and Edgar also condensed battle blades in their palms, flew out from both sides, and surrounded Xia Xingchen in the middle. Facing the fierce attack of Ivan and the other two, Xia Xingchen had no intention of dodging at all. He stood there motionless, as if he was scared silly. Seeing this scene, many mercenaries shook their heads secretly. If Xia Xingchen tried to use the steel body of the mecha to forcibly resist the attack of Ivan and the other two, it would be a big mistake. Ivan and the other two are masters of physical practice, and their flesh and blood bodies are stronger than Mechas. With one blow, I'm afraid that Xia Xingchen's mecha will be turned into ashes. Bang! The attack of Ivan and the other three, carrying violent energy, blasted the beast god mecha from 3 directions. However, at the moment when the energy attack was about to reach the mecha, Xia Xingchen also reacted. With a fixed gaze, a layer of spiritual barrier with a faint glow of the starry sky appeared outside the mecha, blocking the attack of Ivan and the other two. Boom. Different from what everyone expected. The attack of Ivan and the other two could not even break through the spiritual barrier, and could not even touch the body of the mecha. The huge beast god mecha stood in place like a mountain, motionless. Ivan's attack was just like tickling him. How is it possible? This scene made the mercenaries present widen their eyes and look incredible. Ivan and the other two were the best in the newcomer training, and their energy level was at least 60 or 70 stellar units. How could they not be able to shake Xia Xingchen's mecha? Could it be that Xia Xingchen's energy level was higher than Ivan and the others? Not only the audience was shocked, but even Ivan's face changed drastically. When his attack just hit the beast god mecha, he felt the vast energy like a star. He immediately felt something was wrong. I'm sorry. The 3 of you are too weak, and your strength is far from reaching the first level of the galaxy. And I'm already a first level mecha master of the galaxy. Xia Xingchen stared at the 3 people who looked stunned, and said word by word. As the voice came out, Xia Xingchen's body was covered with a faint luster, and the beast god mecha suddenly began to glow. The violent energy was like a solar storm, and instantly filled the entire life and death arena. Boom boom boom. There is an energy shield on the life and death arena to prevent energy leakage. However, under the violent energy impact of Xia Xingchen and the beast god Mecha, the energy shield kept vibrating and seemed to be unable to support it. Galaxy level first level. Looking at the energy bursting out of Xia Xingchen, the entire life and death arena was filled with the sound of sucking in cold air. No wonder Xia Xingchen was so confident that he dared to challenge Ivan and the other two. He has actually been promoted to the first level of the galaxy. This guy Gabriel stared blankly at the huge mecha on the arena, with an extremely wonderful expression on his face. Gabriel made many guesses, but he didn't expect that Xia Xingchen had already been promoted to the first level of the galaxy. Lei Long and Crossing Feng looked at each other, their eyes full of shock and confusion. They knew very well that Xia Xingchen had been carrying out the lowest level tasks recently, and the money he earned was a drop in the bucket. How could he suddenly become a first level galaxy powerhouse? Where did Xia Xingchen get the money to buy the super energy core? Chapter 1680 Killing 3 people. In any case, it is an indisputable fact that Xia Xingchen has been promoted to the first level mecha master of the galaxy. The energy contained in the body of the first level galaxy is so terrifying. The energy of Ivan and the other two combined is not even 1/10 of Xia Xingchen's. The outcome of this life and death competition has long been determined. Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. How can a kid from the wild galaxy enter the first level galaxy before us? Ivan's face was ferocious, and his eyes were full of despair. Ivan was still unwilling to admit that Xia Xingchen was stronger than him. Boring. Xia Xingchen's eyes swept coldly over Ivan and the other two. He actually had no interest in this kind of crushing battle whose result had been expected. He just wanted to end this battle quickly, continue to work hard to make money, and improve his strength. For Xia Xingchen now, time is equal to money. Every second wasted on such boring trivialities made Xia Xingchen's heart bleed. Boom. A dazzling light burst out from the beast god Mecha. The vast energy tide enveloped Ivan and the other two. At that moment, under the influence of energy, the space was shattered, and countless fine lines like spider webs appeared. Xia Xingchen's expression was calm, and he blasted out with one move. Under the gaze of countless eyes, the fierce energy tide hit Ivan and the other two hard. A simple move, but it contained all the energy of the first level of the galaxy. Boom. A dazzling ball of light appeared in the center of the ring. A huge dark golden mushroom cloud rose up, and the strong shock wave spread to the surroundings, making the energy shield of the ring buzz. How is it possible? Ivan widened his eyes, and his pupils were filled with dazzling light. Boom. This light completely enveloped Ivan. After a few seconds, the light that enveloped the entire ring gradually dissipated. In the center of the ring, a huge dark golden mecha stood in place, without a trace of injury on its body. But Ivan and the other three had disappeared without a trace. Under the terrifying energy tide, the strong bodies of Ivan and the other three could not resist, and were completely decomposed into atomic dust and disappeared forever. The whole audience was silent. All the astonished eyes fell on Xia Xingchen. Xia Xingchen had a blank expression on his face. He swept his eyes over the people in the audience and said in a deep voice, "I know that many of you want to kill me. I advise you that it is not worth it to risk your life for a little profit. If anyone still insists on going against me, the final outcome will be the same as those three idiots, and you will definitely die without a complete body." The extremely domineering words fell into the ears of hundreds of strong men in the audience. Many people raised their heads, and their faces were full of surprise. They all widened their eyes. They didn't expect that Ivan and the other three who ranked high in the newcomer training were easily killed by Xia Xingchen. What's more, they didn't expect that Xia Xingchen would be so arrogant after killing Ivan. You know, these words fell into the ears of many strong men, which was a naked provocation. Xia Xingchen was indeed a leader among the 1-star mercenaries. However, among the people present, there were many 2-star mercenaries, and even 3-star mercenaries. They were strong men of the 2nd and 3rd levels of the galaxy. In their eyes, Xia Xingchen was still an ant worthless. This barbarian in the Milky Way really doesn't know how to write the word modesty. Everyone says Xia Xingchen is arrogant. I didn't believe it at first, but today I see it. It's true. Humph, do you really think we dare not kill you? Many strong men folded their arms, their eyes full of hostility. Xia Xingchen, however, had a look of disdain. In the countless hostile eyes, the beast god Mecha soared into the sky and left the trial star directly. Xia Xingchen had just returned to the apartment and had not rested yet, and Carlos rushed back. Xingchen, I don't understand. You win. Why do you have to provoke others? You make enemies everywhere. This is really not a wise move. Carlos shook his head and scolded. Carlos, you have to understand that what is coming will come. If those people are determined to kill me, no matter what I do, they will definitely do it. As the saying goes, it is easy to dodge an open spear, but it is difficult to guard against an arrow from the dark. I deliberately provoked today, just to make things clear and turn the arrow from the dark into an open spear. Xia Xingchen smiled and explained his intention to Carlos. But, this move is too dangerous. Carlos was still worried. Of course it is dangerous. You and I are in this vast universe, and the only people we can rely on are each other. Apart from you, I will not trust anyone else. Including Captain Gabriel. He is good to me, but he will always be my superior, not my friend. Xia Xingchen said coldly. In short, in order to survive, you and I must work hard to become stronger. There is no other way. Yes. Carlos nodded heavily, and he believed in Xia Xingchen's words. Bang. The door was pushed open. Gabriel, Lei Long, and Crossing Feng walked in. Gabriel's face was cold, and he walked straight to Xia Xingchen and sat on the sofa. Xia Xingchen, I'm surprised that you won the life and death arena. But you won. It's unwise to kill Ivan and the other two. There are powerful forces behind them. You offended the three forces by doing this. Gabriel said in a deep voice. Life and death arena. Since you are on the arena, you should put life and death aside. If I don't kill Ivan, Ivan will kill me. As for the forces behind him, I had expected it a long time ago. But I have offended so many people, organizations, and forces, even the Eternal God clan. We humans have a saying that the more lice there are, the less worries there are. In short, I'm killing a chicken to scare the monkeys, to let other people with ulterior motives know that, if you offend me, Xia Xingchen, you will definitely not end well. Xia Xingchen's words contained a sharp murderous intent. I understand your thoughts. But this is Xingyi after all. Even if it is a life and death arena, you will definitely be punished if you kill someone. Alas, you still don't know Xingyi well enough. You were hidden by Xingyi originally, and now you have made a mistake. I'm afraid that the top management will find an excuse to expel you from Xingyi. Outside the Xingyi galaxy, there are many celestial beings waiting to kill you. If you leave Xingyi now, you will die. Gabriel said anxiously. He was deeply worried about Xia Xingchen's future. Seeing Gabriel's concerned expression, Xia Xingchen's expression eased a little. He knew in his heart that Gabriel was really worried about him. Gabriel meant that Xia Xingchen should keep a low profile in Xingyi, be low-key in everything, and not be too ostentatious, otherwise he would be targeted. But Xia Xingchen and Gabriel had completely different ideas. Xia Xingchen also wanted to keep a low profile and make a fortune in silence. But is it possible? The Eternals were watching closely from behind. The Elder had already shown their true colors, and the dark web assassins were coming one after another. How could they keep a low profile at a time like this? Chapter 1681 Star Trek Library. In fact, from the moment Xia Xingchen entered the celestial realm, he had been exposed to the eyes of many opponents. The Mechanical Clan, the Spirit Clan, the Eternal Protoss. Many Celestials wanted to kill Xia Xingchen as soon as possible. In this case, it was too unrealistic to want to keep a low profile. Since it was impossible to keep a low profile, Xia Xingchen decided to do the opposite, no longer suppressing his own light and showing it off as much as he could. Xia Xingchen understood that under this inky space background, the light released by a person was too small. In the celestial realm, where there are so many strong people and geniuses emerging in an endless stream, keeping a low profile will only be looked down upon by the strong and eventually buried. Xia Xingchen must be publicized and must let Xingyi realize his importance. Not long after Gabriel finished speaking, Xia Xingchen's personal terminal received a message flashing with golden light. Ah, it's a message from the Parliament. Gabriel stood up suddenly with a look of astonishment and said in a lost voice, I was just about to plead for you to the Parliament, but the Parliament is already preparing to punish you? Why so soon? Hearing this, Carlos and others' faces also changed drastically. If Xia Xingchen was really expelled from Star Trek, he would have no choice but to die. Don't panic. Xia Xingchen pursed her lips and took a breath to calm her slightly flustered mind, and even felt like calming Carlos's emotions. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Xia Xingchen slid on the virtual screen in front of her and opened the golden message. Hello, Xia Xingchen, I'm Counselor Benjamin. Due to our work mistakes, your qualification for new employee training was cancelled. This is a serious mistake. In order to make up for this mistake, the Parliament has decided after research that all areas of the Star Trek library will be permanently open to you. A human male in a silver robe said to Xia Xingchen with a professional smile on his face. Star Trek library? Xia Xingchen was slightly startled. He had been in Star Trek for quite some time, but he had never heard of this place. However, since this Benjamin came to apologize, not to investigate the matter of killing Ivan and the other two, Xia Xingchen secretly breathed a sigh of relief, gladly accepted the apology, and replied a thank you letter to the distinguished congressman. That was close. Xia Xingchen wiped the cold sweat from his forehead, turned around, and found that Gabriel, Lei Long, Xingfeng, and Collis were all staring at him with wide eyes. What? Is there a flower on my face? Are you looking at it so seriously? Xia Xingchen made a joke to ease the slightly depressing atmosphere in the room. Xingchen. Gabriel swallowed hard, his face full of shock. Aren't you shocked? The top management of Xingyi actually decided to open the entire area of Xingyi library to you? What's the plan? What's wrong with the library? Xia Xingchen looked confused. He really didn't know why Gabriel and the other four were so shocked. The four were speechless when they saw Xia Xingchen's appearance. The Star Trek library is located on the core star. It has 5 floors. It is one of the few activity areas for low-level mercenaries on the core star. However, 1-star mercenaries can only be active on the first floor, 2-star mercenaries can enter the second floor, and so on. Only 5-star mercenaries can enter the highest floor of the library. Carlos knew that Xia Xingchen really didn't understand, so he quickly explained. In other words, you have obtained the authority of a 5-star mercenary. That's why we are so shocked. Angela, the president of the council, didn't you say that you would be hidden? The library is open to you? This is called hiding? Xingfeng stared with her beautiful eyes. She was still a 2-star mercenary and could only enter the second floor of the library. She was very envious of those who could enter the upper level and had access to more knowledge. 5th floor. There are less than 10 people who can enter the 5th floor of the huge Star Trek mercenary group. Lei Long muttered to himself, his eyes full of envy. Privileges of a 5-star mercenary? Xia Xingchen was also stunned, and a huge wave rolled in his heart. After a long time, he slowly calmed down, his face full of expectation, and asked, what knowledge is worth learning in the library? The Star Trek library is a giant library ranked in the top 10 of the celestial realm. The knowledge inside is vast, and is said to be all-encompassing. From the insights of a certain celestial being on the mysteries of the universe to the design drawings of a super technological race and some kind of world-destroying weapons. In short, as long as you can think of knowledge, you can find it in the library. Gabriel was very excited and clenched his fists tightly. In short, this is a great opportunity. You must seize this opportunity. I just don't understand what the top leaders of the Star Trek Council are thinking. Obviously, under the pressure of the Eternal God clan, they have already hidden you. Now they give you this great opportunity. Is it a slap in the face and then a candy to win you over? But, with your current strength, what is the value of winning you over? With a heart full of doubts, Gabriel said goodbye, and only Xia Xingchen and Collis were left in the apartment. Xingchen, I don't understand. Carlos was as confused as Gabriel. I have some guesses in my mind. It should be that one of my abilities has caught the attention of a big shot in the upper echelons of Star Trek. They changed their original plan and prepared to train me. Xia Xingchen smiled happily. The universe is too vast and contains too much knowledge. The stronger I am, the more I find that I'm really ignorant. After I entered the first level of the galaxy, I encountered a major problem. That is, the energy in me and the mecha is too huge, and I can't find a better way to use it. I should be able to find the answer in this Star Trek library. It seems that I must go there immediately. Xia Xingchen was also very excited in his heart. He couldn't wait to go to the core star with Carlos. The core star is obviously much quieter than the other 5 planets. Most areas of the core star are only open to mercenary members above 3 stars. Naturally, there are much fewer people here on weekdays. Star Trek Library, as one of the few areas open to newcomers on the core star, is bustling with people. The entire library is a majestic tower-shaped building. Although it has only 5 floors, it is more than 1,000 meters high. A steady stream of mercenaries entered the library. Senior mercenaries took the elevator directly and entered the area they wanted to go to amid countless envious gazes. Xia Xingchen and Carlos entered the first floor of the library together and saw countless mercenaries sitting on the ground with almost no place to step. Both of them couldn't help but smack their lips. There are a lot of books on this first floor and you can learn all kinds of knowledge. Carlos said, in the world of heaven and man, money and knowledge determine your status. The higher the status, the stronger the strength. Xia Xingchen nodded, and under the gaze of many people, he walked straight to the elevator, ready to enter a higher floor. Chapter 1682 Trap. On the first floor of the Xingli Library, Xia Xingchen and Carlos came to the elevator door together. A staff member came over and stopped the two of them. He looked at them and said disrespectfully, "Stop, you two strangers. You should be the 1-star mercenaries who just joined Xingli. Upstairs is not where you should go. You are not qualified, and the elevator door will not open." Xia Xingchen smiled faintly and put his mercenary badge on the machine next to him. Swish. The elevator door opened. In the elevator, the number keys from the 2nd floor to the 5th floor all lit up at the same time. What? The 5th floor? He can actually enter the 5th floor of the library? A mercenary who was watching the excitement nearby saw this scene and almost dropped his jaw in surprise. Is he qualified to enter the 5th floor? Could he be the legendary 5-star mercenary? 5-star mercenary. A big shot with perseverance at the top of the Shinran realm. Hearing this exclamation, many people gathered around, wanting to witness the style of the big shot. Amidst the countless admiring gazes, Xia Xingchen's expression remained unchanged. He smiled faintly and said to the staff member who looked down on others, "So, am I qualified to go in?" "Yes, yes." The staff member's expression changed drastically, and his attitude became extremely respectful. He bowed and made a gesture of invitation. Xia Xingchen turned to Carlos and said, "Wait for me on the 1st floor. I'll be back soon." Carlos shrugged his shoulders and looked indifferent. "Don't worry about me. I'm just strolling around on the 1st floor. The knowledge here is too vast. Even I can't finish it in a short time." Xia Xingchen nodded and walked into the elevator under the gaze of everyone. As the elevator door slowly closed, the smile on the staff member's face gradually disappeared. He walked quickly to a secluded corner and lowered his voice and said, "The target has entered the elevator. Everything is normal and going according to plan." "Okay, I know." On the top floor of the Parliament building in the center of the core star, several human beings wearing silver robes and with parliamentarian badges on their chests were staring at the virtual screen in front of them. On the screen, it was Xia Xingchen in the elevator. The moment Xia Xingchen stepped onto the core star, he was under surveillance. There were dozens of atomic-sized prototype drones surrounding Xia Xingchen, monitoring his every move. Among the counselors, there was Counselor Benjamin, who had contacted Xia Xingchen. There was no smile on his face, and his face was gloomy. "Benjamin, I don't understand what the council president is thinking. Why give such a high authority to a small 1-star mercenary to enter the 5th floor of the library? You know, even we are not qualified to enter the 5th floor. We can only go to the 4th floor. Moreover, why should we spend the effort to monitor him?" A counselor with gray hair all over his face asked. "Senator Jeff, you just came back, and you don't know anything." Benjamin smiled. This human boy named Xia Xingchen looks very ordinary on the surface. However, his opponents are all of great origin. A big shot of the Eternal God Clan personally asked Zingy to hand him over to the Eternal God Clan for disposal. Eternal God Clan. The top 10. Jeff was stunned. "Yes, it's a big shot among the top 10. Benjamin nodded. "What was the result? Didn't Council President Angela agree?" Several other council members who were not well informed asked hurriedly. Of course they couldn't agree. Benjamin said, although the eternal gods are strong, we, Zingy, are not weak either. If he asked us to hand over the people, and we handed over the people, wouldn't that be very embarrassing? In the future, what face will Zingy have in the celestial realm? But, offending the eternal gods for such a small person is not worth it in the long run. Jeff shook his head. Council President Angela is a very smart person. Why did she make such an unwise choice? Unwise? It's too wise. Council President Angela's wisdom is something you can't understand. Benjamin sneered. Have you never thought about how a barbarian who is so weak and has just become a celestial being can offend the eternal gods and survive? And why did the eternal gods risk breaking up with Zingy and ask us for people? You must not have thought about it, but Council President Angela has thought about it carefully. Could it be that this kid has some treasure? Even the eternal gods covet it? Those who can become Star Trek counselors are all extremely smart people, and they immediately understood what Benjamin said. That's right. This kid is from the Milky Way. Benjamin said, in fact, he is the first person in the Milky Way to ascend to heaven in 10,000 years. The Milky Way. The tomb of the ancient humans. The lost land. The counselors present remembered a rumor at the same time, and were all stunned. Tens of thousands of years ago, the ancient humans were suspected of finding the cosmic artifact, which is why they were coveted by the eternal gods and eventually ended up being exterminated. Now, a wild boy from the Milky Way is being targeted by the eternal gods. The top leaders of the Star Trek mercenary group are naturally not fools. By association, they also suspect that Xia Xingchen is carrying a treasure, and it may even be the legendary cosmic artifact. Therefore, at Angela's suggestion, the Parliament listed Xia Xingchen as a key observation target. The first step was to hide Xia Xingchen, put him in an extremely embarrassing situation, and force him to use this treasure. In fact, Xia Xingchen, as Angela expected, soon rose strongly after a short period of hiding, spent a huge amount of money to buy a superpowered core, and was promoted to the first level of the galaxy. Xia Xingchen bought the superpowered core in the Star Trek, and every expense could not be concealed from the Star Trek high level. Angela believed that Xia Xingchen must be carrying a treasure, and had a huge amount of assets, and then took the second step. In the name of compensating for the hiding, Xia Xingchen was given great authority and the library was fully open to him. A barbarian boy from the wilds of the galaxy came to the Star Trek library, and fell into the ocean of knowledge. He would definitely forget everything. The Star Trek library has a total of 5 floors. The books on the first floor are free, but they cannot be taken out of the library. On the second floor, reading books is charged by the hour, 5,000 points per hour. The third floor, 50,000 points. The fourth floor, 5 million points. The fifth floor is 50 million points. There are only a few books on the 5th floor, but they are all the truths of the universe, and many powerful people in the universe are coveting them. But the price of flipping through the books is too expensive, 50 million points per hour. Even the black hole level powerhouses may not be able to afford it. If Xia Xingchen enters the 4th and 5th floors to browse the books, it means that he must have a treasure on him. An innocent man is guilty of possessing a treasure. The Parliament has arranged a powerful law enforcement team. As long as they get Benjamin's signal, the law enforcement team will go out immediately to arrest Xia Xingchen, torture and rob the treasure. The Star Trek library seems to be a benefit for Xia Xingchen, but it is actually a huge trap with hidden murderous intent. Chapter 1683 Crisis. According to Council President Angela's speculation, Xia Xingchen's joining the Star Trek mercenary group was not a coincidence, but a deliberate act. How can there be so many coincidences in the universe? And the things he covets are likely to be hidden on the 5th floor of this library. As soon as he has the opportunity to enter the library, he should be eager to go to the 5th floor. Once he starts flipping through the books, I will immediately order the law enforcement team to arrest him together with his mechanical friend Carlos. Benjamin sneered, staring at Xia Xingchen's figure in the elevator on the virtual screen. The other council members also held their breath and stared at the screen nervously. Ding. The elevator door opened. Xia Xingchen went directly to the 5th floor. In front of him was a wide space with no edge in sight. There were 2 black bookshelves in the middle of the open space. Xia Xingchen walked over and saw more than a dozen rectangular crystal blocks the length of an index finger on the bookshelf. With the technology of Star Trek, it is natural not to use books as a primitive carrier, but to use trillion-level storage devices. A crystal block is only the size of a finger, and its capacity is measured in trillions of units. The knowledge stored in it is vast. In particular, 3 of the storage crystals are shining with golden light, and the labels read time, space and order. Xia Xingchen couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. Zingy is indeed extraordinary. The library actually stores relevant information about the 8 ultimate mysteries of the universe. However, when Xia Xingchen saw the points required to rent a crystal, his face turned green. 50 million points per hour. Converted into universe coins, it is 50 million universe coins per hour. Xia Xingchen can afford the rental fee for 1 hour. However, the 8 ultimate mysteries of the universe are so profound. How can I understand them in just 1 hour? I understand why Zingy gave me such a high authority and let me enter the 5th floor. The knowledge of the 5th floor is too profound. Even if I have money, I can't understand it. They think I'm a sucker. Xia Xingchen turned around decisively, walked straight into the elevator, and left the 5th floor. Leaving the 5th floor, Benjamin was surprised. He left the 5th floor so decisively? Could it be that President Angela guessed wrong? Or has Xia Xingchen discovered that we are monitoring him? Benjamin thought for a while and shook his head. The monitoring device of Zingy is only the size of an atom. Only a black hole level expert who is good at detection can find it. Xia Xingchen's strength is only the 1st level of the galaxy, and it is absolutely impossible to find the monitoring device. Wait a little longer. The knowledge of the 5th floor is indeed too expensive. The knowledge of the 4th floor is still profound, far beyond his level of cognition. If he rents it to read, it still means that he has a divine weapon. Benjamin took a deep breath, calmed himself down, and waited quietly. Wow. The knowledge of the 4th floor is better than that of the upstairs. But it costs 5 million points an hour. It's too expensive. I can't bear it. I really can't bear it. Xia Xingchen was black, turned around and left the 4th floor again, and entered the 3rd floor. Seeing Xia Xingchen leave the 4th floor, the congressmen who were monitoring fell into deep silence. Xia Xingchen did not rent the knowledge of the 4th and 5th layers, and gave up decisively. It seems that Angela, the Speaker of the Parliament, was wrong. Notify the law enforcement team that the operation is cancelled, and reduce Xia Xingchen's monitoring level from A to D. After Benjamin gave the order, he immediately contacted Angela, the Speaker of the Parliament. Swish. A woman wearing a silver mask appeared on the virtual screen. Mr. Speaker of the Parliament. The parliamentarians all stood up and bowed, with a respectful attitude. Yes. Angela nodded gently, and asked everyone to sit down. Benjamin, how is the operation going? Angela asked. Chairman, the operation failed. Xia Xingchen did not rent the knowledge on the 4th and 5th floors. Benjamin said with his head down. I have lowered his monitoring rating according to the original plan, and all subsequent operations have been cancelled. He is not worthy of our attention at all. We gave him permanent access to the library for nothing, and this is a big loss. Failed. Angela was very surprised. How is it possible? Did he really not rent the knowledge on the 4th and 5th floors? No. Benjamin shook his head and said in a deep voice, he just took a look, showed a stunned expression, and left in a hurry. But I still don't think my idea is wrong. Angela said. Chairman, what should we do next? Otherwise, just use the law enforcement team to arrest him. Benjamin said. No. Although Xia Xingchen is a 1-star mercenary, he is watched by many people. If we forcibly capture him, it will affect the reputation of Zingy. If he has a treasure, then paying this little reputation as a price is not a big deal. But if he is just a nobody, then damaging the reputation of Zingy will not be worth the loss. Angela said. This is not okay, and that is not okay. Otherwise, let him go. Benjamin looked helpless. Well, there are many dark web assassins waiting outside the Zingy galaxy, and some assassins even want to sneak into Zingy to assassinate Xia Xingchen. Recently, we have captured as many as 7. You go and make arrangements, and let 1 or 2 inadvertently, and let them assassinate Xia Xingchen. If Xia Xingchen is killed by the assassin, it means that he is indeed not worthy of attention. If the assassin dies, we will make the next plan, based on his combat rating. Angela ordered. As you wish. Benjamin bowed and cut off the signal. The third floor of Xingbi Library. Xia Xingchen stood in front of a row of bookshelves, and suddenly felt the pressure on his body relieved. After I entered the library, I had a vague feeling that someone was watching me somewhere. But did this feeling suddenly ease? Xia Xingchen raised his eyebrows slightly. I should have entered the vision of the big man of Xingbi. Xia Xingchen thought to himself, I just need to follow my heart and not do anything beyond the limit, and it should be fine. Xia Xingchen just had a warning in his heart and suppressed his curiosity and did not look through the knowledge of the 4th and 5th layers. Not only was the price of that knowledge too expensive, but it was also too profound. Xia Xingchen couldn't understand it at all now. To learn knowledge, you must proceed step by step. However, even if it is the 3rd layer, I can understand some of it, but the knowledge contained is too much. It is varied and all-encompassing. Even if I exhaust my energy to win, it is impossible to learn all this knowledge. Xia Xingchen stood in front of the huge bookshelf and felt deeply insignificant. He felt very confused. There were too many things he didn't understand, and he didn't know where to start. Carlos, you are good at this, so why don't you help me make a simple plan? What kind of knowledge do I need? Xia Xingchen took out the black cat card, put it on his shoulder, and asked Carlos to help him select the most essential parts he needed from the endless knowledge. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 1684 Brain Battle. Well, Xingchen, wait a moment, let me check the catalog of the library on the 3rd floor. Carlos' voice came from the black cat. A few seconds later, Carlos couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. The little black cat frowned tightly, looking a little funny, but his tone was quite solemn. He said in shock, Xingchen, the knowledge on the 3rd floor of the library is much more comprehensive than the 1st floor. No wonder Gabriel and the others want to go to the 3rd floor. There is almost the knowledge of the entire universe here. The price is also expensive, 500,000 points per hour. But you get what you pay for, and we can afford this money. The knowledge on the 4th and 5th floors is too expensive. Xia Xingchen shrugged. Well, with your current level, the 3rd floor is enough. I have just made a basic plan after analysis. Carlos nodded and said, hurry up, hurry up. Xia Xingchen was looking forward to it and couldn't help urging. You are a mecha master. Your body is cultivating mental power, but the mecha is on the technological side. Therefore, first divide it into 2 parts, your own practice and the mecha. Carlos explained to Xia Xingchen step by step. You should have noticed that, after possessing the superpower core, the energy of both you and the mecha has been greatly improved. It is especially obvious in battle. Do you have a feeling that you have all the strength in your body, but you can't use it? Yes, yes, yes. Xia Xingchen nodded repeatedly. So, let's talk about the mental side first. Carlos said, the strong people on the spiritual side are divided into 2 types. One is spiritual creation, which you have mastered. The other is brain combat. Brain combat? It was the first time that Xia Xingchen heard this new term. Is it an illusion? Illusion is a form of brain combat. You should have come into contact with people who are good at soul attacks in the Milky Way before. He is far away from you and can launch mental shocks on you through layers of walls. Carlos said, yes, I have met them before, but there are very few people in the Milky Way who are good at soul attack. I have only seen 1 or 2. Xia Xingchen nodded. The first envoy of the celestial beings was an expert in this field. If it were not for the source of faith, Xia Xingchen would never be able to be the opponent of the envoy. Soul attack is another way of fighting in the mental brain. In your human religion, there should be a concept of visualization. In the state of meditation, use mental power to depict various scenes in the mind, and even enter the brain of others. Use these scenes to fight and kill the enemy without bloodshed. Carlos said, your opponent is the celestial being of the Elder. They are best at fighting in the brain. Therefore, you must master this fighting method. Here is a book called Spiritual Transformation. It is 1 million points to rent it out for one day. It is very cost effective. I suggest you rent it back and read it slowly. Carlos, I listen to you. Xia Xingchen immediately found the storage crystal of spiritual transformation and put it away temporarily. Then there's your mecha. The beast god mecha is very powerful. However, the weapon system and propulsion system are a bit outdated. Here, I suggest you rent these 3 blueprints: soul gun, type I energy cannon and sky splitting wings. Carlos said, the 3 blueprints together cost 5 million credits a day. So expensive. Xia Xingchen couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. He quickly opened the Star Trek mall and checked the prices of the 3 mecha parts. Carlos, the 3 parts in the mall cost only 3 million credits. I can just buy them directly. Why do I have to rent the blueprints? Do I have to open a mecha parts processing factory in the future? Xia Xingchen asked puzzledly. You said before that your creation skills cannot create objects that you don't understand. In other words, you can't create the soul gun, type I energy cannon, and sky splitting wings with your mental power, right? Carlos asked. Yes, I can't make it. Unless I get the blueprint and study it thoroughly, maybe I can make a replica. Xia Xingchen nodded. The element core he gave to Carissa before was made in this way. That's right. Carlos nodded again. I have an idea, a bold idea. The soul gun is the melee weapon of the beast god mecha. The type I energy cannon is a long-range weapon. The sky-splitting wings can greatly increase the flight speed of the beast god mecha. But these 3 parts will wear out quickly. Of course, your beast god mecha has a self-repair function. But, repairing it requires a lot of energy. What if you use mental power to repair it directly? Well, it should save a lot of energy. Xia Xingchen nodded. I calculated it for you, and it can save at least 30% of energy. And if all this energy is supplied to the mecha, the performance of the beast god mecha will be improved by at least 30%. In other words, your mecha was originally operating with a single core, but now it has become a dual core. Carlos explained. Single core becomes dual core. Xia Xingchen's eyes lit up, and he finally understood what Carlos meant. Xia Xingchen had imagined before that a mecha could be equipped with 2 engines. In fact, one engine could not supply enough energy for the Demon King mecha designed by Hao Xian. However, because the superpower core will generate an energy field, 2 superpower cores are too close to each other and will affect each other, reducing performance, which is worse than 1 superpower core. Therefore, most of the mechas in the Shinran realm are only equipped with 1 superpower core. Carlos's ingenious idea allowed Xia Xingchen to use mental power to share the repair energy of 3 mecha parts, which is equivalent to 1 core for mental power and 1 core for superpower core, from single core to dual core. The performance of the mecha has naturally been greatly improved. Carlos, that's great. Xia Xingchen was pleasantly surprised. Just do as you said. I will exchange the 4 items, the divine art, the soul gun, the type I energy cannon, and the tracer wings. I will borrow them from the library and go back to read them slowly. But, in this way, all the money we have worked so hard to earn will be spent. With you here, it's only a matter of time to make money. Carlos smiled. By the way, I also want to rent this. Xia Xingchen pointed to a storage crystal. The label of the crystal is Cosmic Farm Management Technology. It can be rented on the 1st floor. It is free to see in the library. It only takes 10,000 points to rent it out for a day. What do you want this for? Do you still want to grow crops? Carlos looked confused. Haha, this knowledge is not for me, but for you. Carlos, you must study hard. It will definitely come in handy in the future. Xia Xingchen smiled and did not say it out loud. He exchanged 5 storage crystals and spent all his savings before leaving the library. Chapter 1685, Divine Art. Xia Xingchen returned to the apartment and used the reader to look through the contents of the storage crystal. The Art of Transformation, 3 mecha parts drawings. Which one should I look at first? Xia Xingchen muttered in a low voice. To be honest, Xia Xingchen's interest in the Art of Transformation was far less than that in the mecha parts drawings. There was no way. He was originally a mecha fanatic and was more interested in designing and making mechas than practicing illusory spiritual meditation. But under Carlos's insistence, Xia Xingchen finally decided to study the art of transformation first. According to Carlos, he could help Xia Xingchen analyze the mecha parts drawings first, and help him analyze the technical difficulties, which was relatively much simpler. As for the art of transformation, Xia Xingchen could only study and comprehend it carefully, and Carlos could not help at all. Okay, let's do the art of transformation. Xia Xingchen nodded, sat cross-legged on the sofa, and began to read the contents of the art of transformation. The art of transformation is a secret art to evolve one's own world in the mind. In the world of heaven and man, this is not a rare secret art, and almost all spiritual masters have mastered it. However, although it is the same spiritual transformation technique, the image evolved by each person is different. In the Earth Age, some practitioners called it visualization method. Although the names are different, the essence is the same, all of which are to open up their own unique spiritual world. Xia Xingchen was not interested at first, but after a quick look, he was deeply attracted and completely immersed in it. But, unconsciously, Xia Xingchen found himself in a blank space. There is no spiritual nucleus, no vast spiritual ice field. This is not where his sea of consciousness is. It is the spiritual world he opened up. Many spiritual powerhouses can open up spiritual worlds at the legendary level. Xia Xingchen is already a celestial being, and it is very simple to open up a spiritual world. When the world was first opened, it was blank and empty. This is my world. Everything is under my control. What color should I use to fill this world? Xia Xingchen was excited. It is not difficult to open up a spiritual world, but it is difficult to condense and evolve the spiritual power to fill the entire world. Xia Xingchen couldn't think of it for a while. His strength is still too weak, and he is not proficient in spiritual practice. Even so, just follow your heart and do whatever you want. Xia Xingchen was quite free and easy. Sometimes, doing something intentionally can backfire. It's better to do what you want. Maybe it will grow into a shade. With the spiritual power surging, something appeared in the blank spiritual world. It was a small black drill, only the size of a fist, covered with fine spiral patterns. Drill. Xia Xingchen's life weapon was condensed again at this moment. This drill represents Xia Xingchen's heart. Indestructible, brave, and diligent, and unstoppable. But is it just a drill? This drill kept spinning, not very fast, but getting bigger and bigger. In the end, the drill turned into a dark and vast galaxy vortex. The starry sky contains billions of planets of all sizes. Looking closely, they are all in this spiral shape. It's done. Xia Xingchen exhaled suddenly and opened his eyes. At the bottom of his black pupils, a galaxy vortex appeared faintly. Is this the art of transformation? I have condensed my own spiritual world. But how can I fight in my brain like this? Xia Xingchen shook his head and looked at the time. 3 days had passed. After practicing the art of transformation, there were 3 mecha parts drawings left, and Carlos had already analyzed them. Xia Xingchen was already passionate about mechas, and it was only a matter of time before he learned this drawing. After meditating for 3 days without realizing it, Xia Xingchen felt a little bored and went downstairs to the park for a casual walk. Among the 6 planets in the star track, except for the trial planet with yellow sand all over the sky, the other 5 planets are well greened. The park is full of green grass, birds singing and flowers blooming. Xia Xingchen walked on the tree-lined path, enjoying the hard-earned leisure time. Suddenly, snowflakes fell from the sky. A snowflake landed on the tip of Xia Xingchen's nose, bringing a hint of coolness and soaking into his skin. It's snowing. There is winter on this planet, and it snows too. Xia Xingchen raised his right hand and let the snowflakes fall into his palm, feeling peaceful in his heart. His hometown, Manastar, has a hot climate and has never snowed. He had never seen snow since he was a child. Xia Xingchen still clearly remembered the first time he saw snow and how he jumped into the snow and cheered. Wait. Xia Xingchen suddenly stared at the snowflake in his palm. The 6 petals were crystal clear. Ordinary people can only see the snowflakes clearly with the help of a microscope, but Xia Xingchen can clearly see its structure. The problem is not the snowflakes. It's that the snowflakes that fell into Xia Xingchen's hands are exactly the same, without any difference. The snowflakes look exactly the same on the surface, but there are absolutely no two identical snowflakes in the universe. It's not just the snowflakes in the palm of his hand. Xia Xingchen suddenly raised his head, and the omniscience field enveloped him. The snowflakes in the sky were exactly the same, as if they were carved out of the same mold. Unconsciously, there was no sound of people on this tree-lined path, and the surroundings were covered with heavy snow. Even the lights of the distant buildings seemed hazy, extremely distant, and seemed out of reach. Illusion. Xia Xingchen clenched his fists little by little, and there was a hint of murderous intent in his dark pupils. He looked at the forest in front of him, and a cold voice spread out. "You actually cast an illusion on me here, breaking the rules of Xingyi. Aren't you afraid of being punished?" The snow was flying, and there was silence. "You are good at illusions, so you must be a lackey of the spirit race. You spirit race are like this. Before you ascended, you should be a creature like mice. You always hide your head and show your tail, and you can only attack people from the dark." Xia Xingchen sneered. He really couldn't think of anyone else who dared to cast an illusion on him in Xingyi, except the spirit race. "You must be Xia Xingchen." A cold voice came from the depths of the snow. Xia Xingchen looked in the direction of the voice, and saw a translucent hazy figure appear in the snow, slowly becoming clear. Xia Xingchen frowned when he saw this figure. It was difficult for him to describe in words what kind of life was in front of him. In short, it was definitely not a human. It is not even a material life, but a pure spiritual life, emitting a cold breath. In terms that ordinary people can understand, what appeared in front of Xia Xingchen was a soul. But it contained powerful energy. Unknown and powerful, those ignorant civilizations have a name for this kind of life. God, who are you? You should not be a mercenary of Xingyi. What are you going to do? Xia Xingchen looked at the soul in front of him, and a very dangerous feeling surged in his heart. Of course I'm not a mercenary. Remember, I'm the dark web killer Han. I did everything I could to sneak into Xingyi, and lay dormant for so many days just to kill you. The killer smiled coldly, and the chill emanating from his body became even stronger. Chapter 1686 Killer Cold. Darknet Killer Han. Xia Xingchen's pupils suddenly shrank. The name Han was indeed on the list of Darknet killers that Carlos gave him. The Darknet is a mysterious place for most celestial beings. There are many celestial beings who are not good at technology. Maybe they have only heard of this place all their lives, but they can never enter it. But for the artificial intelligence Carlos, entering the Darknet is as easy as eating and drinking. In fact, Carlos also has his own nickname in the Darknet, which is used to take some illegal private jobs. After the Darknet killers chased Xia Xingchen and destroyed the warehouse star, Carlos has been brooding about it. After arriving at Xingyi and having a stable life, Carlos found the list of Darknet killers and gave it to Xia Xingchen so that he could at least have a bottom line in his heart. Killer is an ancient profession. Since the beginning of the universe and the birth of intelligent life, there has been the profession of killer. However, the profession of killer will never see the light and can only survive in the dark. And the Darknet is the shadow under the light. In the Darknet, killers are not low-key, but very active. Even so, Carlos spent a lot of effort to get this list. Han, a soul body celestial being. Unknown identity, unknown galaxy, unknown activity area. Strength, galaxy level 2. In Xia Xingchen's mind, relevant information about Han emerged. Han is not the strongest among the dark web killers, but he is indeed the most mysterious one. Although he is mysterious, but he is just a galaxy level 2, and he can sneak into the planet of Xingyi to assassinate me? The security system of Xingyi is so simple. I don't believe it. Xia Xingchen frowned and muttered in his heart, thinking that it was too abnormal for Han to sneak into Xingyi. I didn't expect that you, a native from the wilds of the Milky Way, would have heard of my name. Han's body exuded spiritual fluctuations. He stood still and did not rush to attack. He looked up and down at Xia Xingchen with interest, like an experienced hunter observing his prey. Han, you are not from Xingyi. You sneaked into Xingyi headquarters and assassinated Xingyi mercenaries, which violated Xingyi's rules. If you are discovered by Xingyi, you will be killed directly. I advise you not to sacrifice your life for a little money. Leave immediately before Xingyi finds you. Xia Xingchen said with a twinkling look in his eyes. That's why I waited for so long, until you left the apartment, and let you fall into my spiritual world. Everything you see here is illusory. To outsiders, you just stood there motionless, and then suddenly died. Han opened his hands, as if embracing this world, with a strong joy in his eyes. This is my world. You are here. There is nowhere to escape. But you are right. I shouldn't waste time, lest I have more troubles. As a killer, the most important thing is to make quick decisions and complete the assassination mission. Han has realized that he has said too much. It is your blessing to witness the power of my ice world. Han suddenly stretched out his hand and pointed at Xia Xingchen. Snowflakes from the sky suddenly whistled down and turned into countless sharp ice cones, covering Xia Xingchen. Xia Xingchen felt cold when he saw this. You know, Xia Xingchen is not driving a mecha now. Of course, even if he is driving a mecha, he can't play any role in this kind of brain battle. Facing a soul body like Han, he can only rely on his own mental power to fight back. Starry sky barrier. Xia Xingchen waved his hand and subconsciously released a barrier. A translucent light curtain emitting starlight appeared in front of him, protecting his whole body. Whoosh, whoosh. The ice cones fell from the sky, bombarding the translucent light curtain like a cannonball. The light curtain flickered, trembled, and burst into circles of ripples, which could be shattered at any time. Xia Xingchen's mental power had just been upgraded to the first level of the galaxy. Moreover, he was trapped in Han's world. It was extremely difficult to resist with only a starry sky barrier. The starry sky barrier can't resist. We must think of other ways. Xia Xingchen looked at the barrier in front of him that was about to collapse, and a thought came to his mind. With his current strength, he would definitely not be Han's opponent in a head-on confrontation with his mental power. The only way out was to fight with him in the brain domain and attack his world with his own world. Otherwise, he would die. But Xia Xingchen's figure suddenly disappeared and turned into a dark starry sky vortex, slowly rotating like a black hole, swallowing up this ice and snow world. Xia Xingchen's world slowly unfolded in front of Han. Spiritual world. Han was slightly startled, and then a sneer appeared on his face. With your weak world, you want to compete with my ice world? Naive. Boom. All the scenery in the woods, the path, and the high-rise buildings in the distance suddenly disappeared. The entire space was white, with only flying snow and icicles. This world revealed its true face. In the center of the icy world, a dark vortex of stars, like a leaping black flame, is still beating strongly. Facing the vast icy world, Xia Xingchen felt great despair. This world is cold and ruthless. Except for the low temperature that freezes everything, nothing exists. The spiritual world represents Han's true heart. In his heart, the universe should be so cold. However, no matter how cold Han's world is, the dark vortex of stars in the center still exists, stubbornly rotating, swallowing up this snow-white world at a very slow speed. How is it possible? Your world is so weak, why doesn't it shatter? Instead, you are swallowing up my world. Han made a terrified voice, like a roar of God, echoing in the icy world. The universe seems cold, but coldness is not the essence of the universe. There are countless planets and countless lives in the universe. Behind the coldness is the vibrant spring. Xia Xingchen's voice came from the vortex. No, no. Han's angry and helpless roar echoed in the world. The starry sky vortex kept spinning, expanding, and spreading, swallowing up the ice world, becoming larger and larger. In the end, the ice world was completely swallowed up by the starry sky vortex. Han's body disappeared silently as his spiritual world was shattered. From then on, there was one less dark web killer in the universe, and no one would remember its name. Xia Xingchen sat on a bench on the tree-lined path, his face pale, sweating, and panting heavily. Just now, Xia Xingchen walked between life and death. Xia Xingchen realized again how big the gap was between himself and the second-level galaxy. He was able to defeat Han, not because his spiritual world was really stronger than Han's ice world. It was not Xia Xingchen's starry sky vortex that really swallowed up the ice world. Thank you, Mr. Ying. A small crystal pyramid appeared in Xia Xingchen's palm, and he thanked him softly. Haha, I should thank you for being able to devour such a pure spiritual world. Then again, Xingchen, You have to find a way to improve your strength. I can help you this time. But if the enemy is too strong next time, I can't help you. In the end, you still have to rely on yourself. Aang Leo's voice came from the pyramid. Han did not notice that in the starry sky vortex that devoured his icy world, there was also a crystal pyramid emitting a faint white light. Chapter 1687 Surveillance. Xia Xingchen sat on the bench and rested for a long time before she recovered some strength and returned to the apartment. Xingchen, what's wrong with you? Carlos saw that Xia Xingchen's face was abnormally pale and asked hurriedly. It's okay. Xia Xingchen waved his hand and forced a smile on his face. How can it be okay? You are injured. It's a serious injury. Lie down here and I will help you check. Carlos looked solemn. Xia Xingchen didn't want to make Carlos worry, so she didn't tell the truth. However, Carlos was obviously not a person who was easily fooled. In the end, Xia Xingchen had to tell the truth, that there was a dark web killer, Soul Cold, who came to assassinate him. What? Killer Han, Galaxy level 2. How is this possible? How could a mere Galaxy level 2 infiltrate Star Trek and assassinate you on the planet? Fortunately, he did not succeed in the assassination. If he succeeded, it would be a huge scandal for Star Trek if this matter got out. Carlos was shocked. It's best to tell Captain Gabriel about this and let him report it to the Star Trek executives to strengthen Star Trek's security defense. No. Xia Xingchen shook his head and stopped Carlos. I think the same as you. It is extremely abnormal for a Galaxy level 2 killer to sneak into Star Trek. I think it was the Star Trek executives who deliberately let him in to assassinate me. Therefore, it is useless to report to the Star Trek executives. The Star Trek executives deliberately sent a killer to assassinate you? Carlos took a breath. Why? Why would they do this? What are the benefits? I don't know for now. Xia Xingchen's eyes sparkled. In short, the Star Trek is not as safe as rumored. We must find ways to protect our own safety. In this universe, we can't trust or rely on anyone. We can only rely on ourselves. Yes. Carlos nodded and agreed with Xia Xingchen's point of view. Core-Star. In the counselor's office, Benjamin had a serious look on his face as he reported to Council Speaker Angela. A Galaxy level 2nd level killer was killed by Xia Xingchen while trying to assassinate him. Xia Xingchen is a Galaxy level 1st level killer and can't be a match for a 2nd level killer. Therefore, your judgment, Council Speaker, is correct. He must have a cosmic treasure on him. It's just that the level and function of the cosmic treasure are still unclear. In fact, this killer named Han is a soul body. He used his best brain area to fight, but was still killed by Xia Xingchen. In other words, the treasure on Xia Xingchen's body is very likely an offensive cosmic treasure on the spiritual side. Yeah. Angela nodded slightly. We still have too little information and need to continue testing. Arrange another killer to enter the Star Trek to continue assassinating Xia Xingchen. Chairman, do you still want to arrange assassins? Benjamin hesitated. I specially selected this assassin named Han because the battle in the brain is silent and will not cause much impact. But if it is an assassin of other life forms, it will make too much noise when fighting with Xia Xingchen. If this matter is exposed and others know that an assassin has infiltrated Zingi, it will be bad for our reputation. This reputation is nothing compared to the treasures on Xia Xingchen. In short, follow my orders and continue to test. Angela's words were very strong and ordered. Yes, sir. Benjamin had no choice but to follow Angela's orders. Then, Benjamin arranged a loophole in Zingi's defense device, accidentally allowing a mechanical killer to sneak into Zingi. The reason for arranging a mechanical killer was that Benjamin considered that Xia Xingchen was a mecha master and was good at driving mechas to fight, and perhaps the mechanical killer could find out more about him. However, since being assassinated by Killer Han, Xia Xingchen has been hiding in apartment 5002 and has not come out. This mechanical killer is also a Galaxy level 2 killer. Even if he has great courage, he dare not directly break into the apartment building to assassinate. After hiding for a month, the mechanical killer did not find any opportunity, and finally he had to choose to evacuate. Benjamin did not expect that it would be such a result. He had to rearrange a Galaxy level 3 killer with a strong body to enter the planet. However, this killer still did not find any opportunity and finally could only return empty-handed. After wasting 2 months, Benjamin could not sit still and reported the matter to Council President Angela. Staying indoors? Angela pursed her lips. I didn't expect him to be so careful. But, he has been hiding in the room all the time. What is he doing? Is he practicing with the help of the secret treasure of the universe? Sir, we don't know either. All reconnaissance equipment is prohibited in the apartment. This rule cannot be broken. Not even you. Benjamin heard the implication of Angela's words, that she wanted to install surveillance cameras in the apartment to monitor Xia Xingchen. However, this is absolutely impossible. Because if this scandal is exposed, it will not be as simple as lowering the reputation of Xingyi. The mercenaries will all be in danger and think that their privacy has been violated. Of course I know. Angela glared at Benjamin. You go and arrange it. Let Gabriel contact me, and I will talk to him in person. Yes, sir. Benjamin nodded and immediately contacted Gabriel. The council president is looking for me again. Gabriel was fighting a huge star dragon in the arena of the trial star. After hearing the news, he punched with his right hand, smashing the huge star dragon into pieces, and bathed his body in dragon blood. He took a simple shower, and before his hair was completely dry, he opened the virtual screen. Swish. Angela's figure appeared in the virtual screen. Mr. Council President. Gabriel bowed and saluted, saying softly, well, 3-star mercenary Gabriel. Angela nodded. How does Star Trek treat you? Star Trek treats me well. If it weren't for Star Trek, I wouldn't be where I am today. Especially you, who promoted me to a 3-star mercenary, so that I can enjoy more privileges and benefits. After recent training, my strength has improved. Gabriel said respectfully. Very good. Now I have a task for you. Angela said directly. Xia Xingchen is a member of your team. It was you who recommended him to join the Star Trek mercenary group. Therefore, I need you to monitor his every move and report all his information to me. Monitor mercenaries? Gabriel was stunned, raised his head, and looked at Angela in astonishment. Mr. Council President, did I hear you wrong? You actually asked me to monitor my own team members? Hasn't Star Trek always advocated freedom, equality, and friendship? This kind of behavior is an invasion of other people's privacy. It is an extremely immoral behavior. Chapter 1688, Covering the Sky with One Hand. Xia Xingchen is just a 1-star mercenary who has just joined Xingyi. Angela said calmly, for the safety of Xingyi, it is not a bad idea to monitor him for a while. If you don't want to, I won't force you. I will assign a mission to your team. You must let Xia Xingchen participate in this mission. I will arrange some enemies to test his strength. Wait a minute, sir. Your words are getting more and more outrageous. First of all, I can't guarantee that Xia Xingchen will agree to participate in this mission. His opponent is very powerful and has recruited many dark web assassins to wait outside the Xingyi galaxy to assassinate him. Xia Xingchen is not stupid. He will not leave Xingyi at this juncture to perform missions in other starfields. Secondly, even if Xia Xingchen agrees to participate, you said that arranging some enemies means attacking him? Guns and cannons have no eyes. Can you guarantee his safety? Gabriel said. Of course not. Angela answered very straightforwardly. The worst result is that Xia Xingchen will be killed. Of course, this result is not bad. At least we can gain the friendship of the Eternal God clan. Gabriel was silent. After a long time, Gabriel looked up, stared straight at Angela, gritted his teeth, and said word by word, my lord, I never thought that you would be such a despicable person. 3-star mercenary Gabriel. Watch your words, and be careful who you are facing. You are facing me, Angela, the president of the Star Trek mercenary group. Angela said angrily. Her voice was no longer as gentle and moving as usual, but became very sharp, piercing people's eardrums. I know. You are one of the most important figures in the mercenary group. However, this does not mean that you can wantonly break the rules of the mercenary group. Above you, there is the deputy leader of the mercenary group, and the leader. You can't cover the sky with one hand. Gabriel was also angry. His eyes were red, and he shouted angrily. Deputy leader. Leader. Angela sneered. You have only heard of their names, but have never seen them, let alone know what state they are in now. Forget it. I don't want to bother with a small person like you. I'll give you one last chance. Keep an eye on Xia Xingchen. Otherwise what? Expel us from the mercenary group. I, Gabriel, am upright and stand tall. What right do you have to expel me? Gabriel said angrily. Expel? That's right, I can't expel a 3-star mercenary for no reason. However, the review power of all the tasks of your team lies with the parliament. In other words, if the parliament disagrees, you will not be able to accept the task. Haha, the fate of mercenaries who cannot accept the task can be imagined. Angela sneered. Even so, I will never give in. Gabriel straightened his body. A hard bone. Very good, I'll see how long you can be hard. Angela was very angry and cut off the signal. Bang. The virtual screen was blank and Gabriel sat heavily on the chair. His strong body was soaked with cold sweat. I didn't expect that the upper echelons of Star Trek were so dark. They actually asked me to monitor Xia Xingchen. How could I agree? However, our task review right is in Angela's hands. Will she really prevent us from accepting the task? If that's the case, Gabriel didn't dare to think about it any further. The consequences were too serious. The task release system of the Star Trek mercenary group is very simple. The employer releases the task and the mercenary or team accepts it. After accepting it, the parliament will review the task. If the mercenary's strength is not up to standard and cannot complete the task, then the parliament will suggest that the employer replace the mercenary. This is done on the one hand, to ensure the safety of the mercenary's life, and on the other hand, to ensure the employer's task completion rate. Unless the employer requires a certain mercenary team to perform the task, generally, the employer will listen to the parliament's opinion. In other words, no matter how hard Gabriel tries to receive the task, his task application will definitely be rejected. Living in Star Trek is very expensive. In addition to training, buying equipment, food, clothing, housing and transportation all cost money. A team that cannot perform tasks will soon be in such a state that even basic survival cannot be guaranteed. This is cruel, but it is reality. Gabriel did not give up. After calming down, he opened the task interface and chose a task with a high reward, but a high risk factor and a very long task time. Mercenaries do not like this kind of task, and few people will take the initiative to accept it. Although the reward is high, only by living can there be a future. Gabriel used to accept this kind of task with a success rate of 100%. However, his task application was quickly rejected by the parliament. Gabriel had no choice but to think that he might not be strong enough to perform this task, so he changed to an ordinary task. For Gabriel, this task is too simple and can be completed easily. However, the task application was still rejected by the parliament. Gabriel was stunned. He only realized now that Angela's words were not just talk. Angela has put it into action and put pressure on himself. Unless he agrees to monitor Xia Xingchen, he will never be able to accept the task. Too much. Gabriel was very angry and immediately filed a complaint. But this letter of complaint fell into the sea and received no response. Not only Gabriel, Lei Long and Crossing Feng also soon found that no matter what mission they accepted, they were rejected. Moreover, even the rewards for the previously completed missions were in arrears and had not been credited to the account. Captain, what's going on? Yes, you should report it to the higher-ups. Is there something wrong with the system? Lei Long and Crossing Feng went to find Gabriel together. Gabriel saw that he could not hide it any longer, so he could only tell the truth. What? Is the president of the parliament so excessive? She can really think of monitoring her own mercenaries. If she wants to monitor, she can monitor herself. With her strength, I don't think Xia Xingchen will find out. After hearing this, Lei Long and Crossing Feng were also very angry. She is naturally afraid of taking responsibility. After Gabriel calmed down, he understood Angela's thoughts. She asked us to monitor, and if anything were to come to light, she would put the blame on us and clear herself of all blame. This woman's viciousness is beyond our imagination. However, she was able to climb to the top of Star Trek, only below the two team leaders, so it's not surprising that she used these dirty tricks. Disappointment. Star Trek disappoints me so much. Such a despicable and dirty person turned out to be a high-ranking official of Star Trek. If this matter gets out, all Star Trek mercenaries will be terrified. Lei Long and Crossing Feng were also feeling disheartened at this moment. Chapter 1689, Departure Star 5002. During this period, Xia Xingchen and Carlos stayed at home and stayed in the apartment with only one thing in mind, making money. Carlos was frantically accepting orders, while Xia Xingchen was constantly using his creation skills to make handicrafts. The highest income of the two of them could reach 3 million universe coins a day. However, the scale of the handicraft market was not large, and the large-scale influx of exquisite handicrafts made by Xia Xingchen regardless of cost soon caused an impact on other handicraft stores. The owners of other stores united and started a price war with Xia Xingchen. The price of handicrafts hit a new low, and Xia Xingchen's income was also affected. At the lowest point, he only earned 1 million universe coins a day, which was completely a case of small profits but quick turnover. Xia Xingchen used his mental power day and night to make handicrafts, feeling boring and tired. The final result of the price war was naturally that Xia Xingchen, who did not need to spend money, won. Carlos reached a settlement with other store owners, and the price of handicrafts gradually returned to normal. The average income of the two was 2 million universe coins a day. In the past, Carlos would have jumped for joy with so much income every day. But now, Carlos was frowning and sighing all day long. Money, money. Carlos complained to Xia Xingchen, "It's too slow to make money this way. The maximum income is 60 million universe coins a month. After deducting expenses, I only saved 150 million universe coins in 3 months. It's only enough to buy a super energy core." Carlos, don't worry. The primitive accumulation stage of capital is boring and slow. Although Xia Xingchen was tired, his mentality was still stable. But, to enter the second level of the galaxy, you need to buy hyperspace energy transmission technology and equipment. Recently, the price of this technology has increased again, and it requires at least 3 billion universe coins. At the current speed of making money, we need 60 months, that is, 5 years, to save 3 billion. I'm an artificial intelligence with a long lifespan. This time is nothing to me, just a blink of an eye. But what about you? How much time do you have to waste? Carlos said irritably. You are right. It is indeed too slow to make money this way. Xia Xingchen nodded gently, but he was not anxious at all. He had already made a plan in his mind. Carlos, check the price of the cheapest planet near the Star Trek galaxy. Well, there is no need for minerals or intelligent creatures on the planet. But the climate must be pleasant and crops can be grown. Xia Xingchen said. In the Milky Way, any habitable planet, even a green planet in its original state, will be sold at a sky-high price. The plants, animals, and minerals on the planet can all be sold for money. You can also use the beautiful scenery on the planet to transform it into a tourist scenic spot. But the celestial world is different. Planets with intelligent life and minerals are naturally very expensive. However, if you only require a pleasant climate and a planet that can grow crops, the price is much cheaper. Because with the technology of the celestial beings, it is too simple to transform the climate and soil of a planet. It only takes 100 years to transform a completely desolate planet without any life into a green planet. Xingchen, 3.5 light years away from the Zingy galaxy, in a galaxy called Rota, there is a green planet numbered GT8844 for sale. The price is 200 million universe coins. Carlos responded after checking. Well, hold on for another month, and buy this planet. Xia Xingchen's eyes lit up, and he looked at the planet GT8844 on the virtual screen. The planet was full of greenery, and the more he looked at it, the more he liked it. 1 month later, Xia Xingchen finally saved enough money and directly bought this planet GT8844 in full. He renamed it Xia Star, implying that this planet is the starting point for humans in the heavenly world. Xingchen, I don't understand. You have saved so much money with great difficulty. Why do you want to buy this godforsaken planet? What's the use? Carlos raised his glass and celebrated with Xia Xingchen for successfully purchasing Xia Star, but his brows were furrowed. He thought about it for a long time and couldn't understand Xia Xingchen's idea at all. Carlos, making money from handicrafts is too slow. We need money, a lot of money. Xia Xingchen gently shook the amber wine in the glass. The world of heaven and man is a world of money. Without money, you can't take a single step. Making money is the basis of everything. With money, you can ensure your own safety, take risks, practice, and improve your strength. I agree. Many celestial beings are running for money. Carlos nodded, although they are mediocre, like ants. But, there is nothing we can do about it. We must make money. We can't earn hard money slowly, otherwise we will have no future in life. We must make big money, and become rich people in the world of heaven and man. And our hope lies in this dream fruit. Xia Xingchen stretched out his right hand, and a silver fruit like an apple appeared in his palm, exuding a rich, sweet fragrance, which made people feel relaxed and happy, and their saliva could not help but flow out. Fantasy fruit. An improved variety of forbidden fruit of life. It makes it possible to cultivate forbidden fruit of life that cannot be cultivated artificially. If we can cultivate fantasy fruit on a large scale, then one fantasy fruit will be equivalent to 100 million universe coins. Think about it. Xia Xingchen said his idea in a deep voice. That's why I asked you to learn knowledge related to plant cultivation. With your ability, it is an extremely simple thing to design and operate a large-scale planting farm. Xingchen, have you ever thought about what if you can't cultivate it? Carlos whispered. Of course I have thought about this. However, if you want to make money, you must take risks. The greater the risk, the greater the reward. Besides, what do we have to lose? It's just 200 million universe coins to buy a planet. Even if it can't be cultivated, we can sell the planet. And how much money can we lose? Xia Xingchen helped Carlos calculate. Carlos was also calculating quickly, and finally he nodded, thinking that Xia Xingchen's plan was feasible and the benefits far outweighed the risks. Win the villa, and eat delicious food. If we lose, we will just continue to make crafts, and earn a little money like now. There is only one last question. Carlos said, we have to leave the Star Trek galaxy when we go to King Star to cultivate the dream fruit. With your and my current strength, we are not enough to protect our own safety. How to deal with those dark web killers? Haha, Carlos, this is too easy. Where are we? The Star Trek mercenary group. Can't we just pay the mercenaries to protect us? Of course, I don't trust other mercenaries. We can ask Captain Gabriel, Thunder Dragon, and Starwind to protect us. We can still afford this little money. Xia Xingchen smiled. Be your own employer? Xingchen is really good. Carlos' eyes lit up immediately. Chapter 1690 Building a Base. In the room, Gabriel, Xingfeng and Li Lang were sitting on the sofa with frowns on their faces. There were many empty bottles on the table. They had not received any missions for several months, and all their accumulated points had been used up. Captain, this is not a solution. Why don't we leave Zingy? Zingy treats us like this. There is no need for us to continue to be loyal to it. Li Lang suggested. I'm at least a third level galaxy, and I'm also well known in the world of heaven and man. Zingy is not the only mercenary group in the universe. Otherwise, we should just surrender to the parliament. It's just to monitor Xia Xingchen, which is not a big deal. Besides, how can small people like us fight against Zingy? It's like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. Xingfeng proposed another plan. Gabriel lowered his head and remained silent. After a long time, he finally looked up and gritted his teeth and said, this is not a question of whether to monitor Xia Xingchen or not. Everyone has a bottom line. Once it is crossed, there is no turning back. I agree with Lei Long's suggestion. At worst, we leave Zingy. But if we leave, will Xia Xingchen leave with us? Without the identity of Zingy mercenaries, even with Lei Long. Once we leave the Zingy galaxy, we will be bombarded and killed by black hole level dark web killers. Xingfeng and Lei Long fell into silence. The identity of Zingy mercenaries is very useful in the Shinran world. Even if it is a 1-star mercenary, many forces have to give face. Black hole level dark web killers dare not act casually to assassinate a Zingy mercenary. Just when the three were at a loss and hesitant, Gabriel suddenly received a message. He was discouraged and thought that the parliament had rejected their mission request again, and he didn't even want to open it. However, out of the sense of responsibility of a professional mercenary, he finally opened the message. This is a video message. On the virtual screen, a half-body image of Senator Benjamin appeared, with a hypocritical smile on his face. Captain Gabriel, you are lucky. An employer has assigned your team to a planet to perform a guard mission. Although the parliament rejected this employer and hoped that he could replace the team, he was very stubborn and still chose you. In short, this mission is yours. But remember, good luck only comes once. Snap. The video ends. Gabriel, Xingfeng, and Li Lang all clenched their fists tightly. Although they were very happy to receive the new mission, Senator Benjamin's words were simply a naked threat. That's too much. Pushing us to a dead end. Is this how Xingyi treats its own mercenaries? The three of them gritted their teeth tightly, with anger burning in their eyes. No matter what, this mission has helped us out of an urgent situation. We must thank our employer after we meet him. Gabriel took a deep breath to calm himself down. The most important thing is to carry out the mission. Let's go. As for what to do in the future, we will make a long-term plan after we finish this mission. Okay. As you wish. Xingfeng and Li Lang both nodded. They couldn't think of any good solutions for the time being, so they could only take one step at a time. Gabriel and the other two immediately went to the VIP reception desk of Xingyi and found the employer, a man wearing a black robe and a mask, with a slightly thin figure. A black cat squatted on the man's shoulder, and the mental fluctuations were completely blocked, so his identity could not be detected. Dear employer, I'm Gabriel. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to protect your safety. Gabriel walked up to the man and bowed to thank him. Yes. The man nodded gently. His voice was old, as if he was an old man. The universe is so big that there are all kinds of strange life forms. Gabriel has seen many strange people. Seeing that the old man in black robes doesn't like to talk, he doesn't care. After introducing the two team members, Xingfeng and Li Lang, he invited the old man in black robes to board his spaceship and flew towards the coordinates of the destination planet. The target planet was originally called GT8844, and it was just renamed Star. This old man is obviously the sponsor who bought this planet. Knowing that the old man is so rich, Gabriel and the other two are even more respectful to him. In the world of heaven and man, the strong and the rich often get more respect. In most cases, the two identities do not conflict. The distance of 3.5 light years is very close for Gabriel's spaceship. A few days later, the spaceship successfully arrived at Star, a beautiful planet full of green. The only drawback is that the life form of this planet is extremely primitive, with only plants and protozoa, and even mammals have not evolved. Obviously, Star is a green planet that has undergone environmental transformation. Sir, we have reached our destination. Gabriel asked the old man in black robe to disembark with a respectful attitude. Very good. The security work of Star is now handed over to you. I will pay you according to the number of days. You must be careful and do not let your guard down. The old man in black robe nodded and walked straight into the depths of the forest. Of course, we are professional mercenaries. This is our job. Gabriel nodded quickly and said respectfully. The old man in black robe walked into the depths of the forest and made sure that he was out of the detection range. He took off his black robe and revealed his true face, which was Xia Xingchen. The black cat on his shoulder was Carlos. Carlos is an artificial intelligence, a real-life form, a series of data composed of zeros and ones, and he can change his form at will. What's more, the black cat Xiaocan is his clone. In order to conceal his identity, he directly transferred to the black cat and came to Star together. Xingchen, won't you tell Captain Gabriel your identity? The black cat jumped off Xia Xingchen's shoulder. It's not the right time yet. Xia Xingchen shook his head. It's better for them not to know some things. We don't have much time. Let's hurry up and start working. Well, we are the captain's employer now, so it's good. At least they can earn their wages without psychological pressure. Black Cat nodded, and the space ring on his finger flashed, and 10 tall engineering robots appeared on the open space. Under Carlos' control, the robots began to cut down trees and build houses. Soon, one house after another was built, and the dream fruit cultivation base began to take shape. Building houses is very simple for the mechanical people. The large equipment that Carlos bought on the Universal Civilization Network also arrived and was put into the factory. The entire cultivation base was controlled by Collis alone, and everything was in good order. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 1691 Germination. Xia. In the newly completed research institute, Xia Xingchen and Carlos both held their breath, manipulated the mechanical arm to bury a silver fruit into the soil, and poured a special culture solution on it. One dream fruit costs 100 million universe coins. Just plant it like this. If it doesn't grow, it will be a big loss. Xia Xingchen muttered in a low voice. Yes. Carlos remade a body, a tall and handsome human male wearing a white research suit, and nodded. However, according to my calculations, our chances of success are very high. The soil and environment here completely imitate the secret realm of the twin pearl star, and the dream fruit should be able to grow. I hope so. Xia Xingchen was also worried. Using the creation skills to make handicrafts to make money is indeed a profitable business. However, the scale of this business is too small, and the money earned is hard earned. If Xia Xingchen wants to continue to move up, he must find other ways to make big money. The dream fruit is an opportunity for Xia Xingchen. Opportunities always coexist with failure. If successful, Xia Xingchen's wealth will rise rapidly, and he will become a new rich man in the world of heaven and man in a short time. If he fails, Xia Xingchen will waste a lot of time and money. It's called an opportunity, but it's actually a gamble. Life is a gamble. Xia Xingchen stared at the dream fruit that had just been planted, full of expectations. However, life is not as expected, 9 out of 10 times. The dream fruit did not take root and sprout as Xia Xingchen imagined, but did not move, lying dormant under the soil. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. In the first few days, Xia Xingchen could wait patiently. However, after a week, Xia Xingchen couldn't hold on any longer and kept asking Carlos about the movement of the dream fruit seeds. Xingchen, be patient. We are going to plant the dream fruit, not other plants. It is normal to encounter some difficulties in the early stage. Carlos persuaded. As an artificial intelligence, patience is Carlos's specialty. I know I can wait, but those dark web assassins may not be willing to wait. Xia Xingchen was very anxious. My departure from Star Trek should have been discovered. The senior management of Star Trek and the dark web assassins will soon find out that I have come to the sailing star. Although Captain Gabriel is responsible for safety, they will definitely not be able to hold on for a long time. That's right. Carlos looked solemn. According to my calculations, we only have less than 20 days of safety time on the sailing star. If we fail to successfully cultivate the dream fruit within 20 days, we will abandon this base, take emergency shelter measures, and return to Star Trek. Yes, this is the only way. Xia Xingchen nodded. Xia Xingchen's prediction was correct. His whereabouts have been exposed. The first batch of dark web assassins have arrived at the periphery of the sailing star. Fortunately, although there are many dark web assassins in this batch, there are more than a dozen, but their strength is between the first and second levels of the galaxy, which is not strong. Gabriel soon discovered the traces of the assassins, and led Xingfeng and Li Long to attack them, annihilating them in outer space. In the orbit of the planet, Li Long was sitting on a huge Zerg corpse, with several damaged killer corpses in front of him. He frowned slightly. Captain, something is wrong. We just arrived at Xia Star not long ago. Why are there so many killers chasing us? Who is the employer? How did he provoke so many enemies? Xingfeng was wearing a silver armor that outlined a beautiful figure, with long purple hair fluttering, and a silver spear on his back. Hearing Li Long's words, he nodded slightly, and said to Gabriel, who was flying in the distance, yes, these killers are from different races, and it is obvious that they are all Lunners. Could it be that the black-robed employer has a bounty on his head? That's why he has attracted so many killers? Will there be more killers coming in the future? Can we win? Gabriel flew over, holding 2 corpses in his hands. He threw the corpses aside and said, the first rule of the Star Trek mercenary code is never to inquire about the identity of the employer. Even if the employer is your enemy, as long as he is willing to pay the commission, all grudges will be settled after the mission is over. In short, as long as the employer is willing to pay the reward, we must be responsible for the safety of the hanging star. That's right. Xingfeng and Li Lang both nodded. They were grateful to the mysterious old man in black robes. Although the mission of protecting the hanging star was not big, it solved their urgent needs. No matter how good it is to add icing on the cake, it is not as good as sending charcoal in the snow. Well, never mind. Some of these killers are dangerous element who are rewarded by the Shinran realm. Their lives can be exchanged for some bounties. It's a little less, but for us, every penny is very important. Gabri lauded and took the lead in looking for something that could prove the identity of the killer among the dirty corpses. Li Lang and Xingfeng could only endure and began to search for the corpses. Many corpses were blown to pieces, and they could only search for them one by one. They used to disdain to do this kind of scavenger work, but now they are poor and have low ambitions, so they have to become scavengers. Kahungstar, in the research institute, Xia Xingchen was lying on the bed, with the virtual image of Kinjana floating in front of him. Princess Crossing had a gentle smile on her beautiful face and whispered, "Xingchen, I miss you." Unknowingly, Xia Xingchen's eyes were full of tears. "Jaina, I miss you too. I don't know when I can go back. It's really hard to be alone outside." Xia Xingchen has always been strong and a hero of the Milky Way, but he is not made of iron after all. Alone in this alien galaxy, he can never find a sense of belonging. He misses his hometown and his wife. "Xingchen." Carlos suddenly rushed in, his expression excited, and he shouted excitedly, "Success! Success! The dream fruit has sprouted. Finally sprouted." Xia Xingchen was stunned at first, and then his body jumped up from the bed and said excitedly, "Let's go. Go and have a look." Xia Xingchen followed Carlos and rushed to the research institute as fast as possible. Through the thick glass, he saw a tender little tree bud coming out of the soil. It was so small and so weak, but it did represent hope. Xia Xingchen's eyes were filled with tears of excitement. His hands were clenched tightly, and his whole body was shaking. Xia Xingchen was so happy. If the dream fruit did not sprout, he really didn't know what to do. Would he return to the star track and be tested and played by the upper level of the star track? Or hide it? Xia Xingchen was tired of it. Tired of being chased by people all day, hiding his head and showing his tail, hiding everywhere. Rise. This is the beginning of my rise. It is also the beginning of the rise of mankind. I want to make the name of mankind shock the world again. Xia Xingchen said in a deep voice. Chapter 1692 Hiring. After the dream fruit sprouted, things became much easier. After Carlos learned the planting techniques, he prepared a plant growth liquid that could greatly accelerate the growth rate of plants. Under natural conditions, it takes several years or even decades for the dream fruit to grow from germination to fruiting. However, under the promotion of the growth liquid, the tree buds grew quickly, and in 10 days, it grew into a 2-meter tall, completely symmetrical silver tree. 15 days later, the dream fruit produced 2 fruits. Xia Xingchen, wearing a protective suit, walked into the cultivation room, and with his hands trembling slightly, he picked the fruit. After the fruit left the tree, the trunk and branches withered immediately. This is also the characteristic of the dream fruit. A tree can only produce 2 fruits in its lifetime. After the fruit is ripe and picked, the original plant will wither immediately. The dream fruit is an improved variety of the forbidden fruit of life. Originally, the habits of the forbidden fruit of life are very special. It takes decades for a forbidden fruit of life tree to produce 1 fruit. Once the fruit leaves the tree, the original fruit tree will wither immediately. Moreover, only when a fruit is fully planted in the soil can the survival rate be guaranteed to be over 80%. If only the seeds are planted, the survival rate is only about 20%. It is precisely because of this extremely special habit that the forbidden fruit of life is very rare and the price has always been high. The celestial race that built the life laboratory on the twin pearl star also spent many years to improve the forbidden fruit of life into the dream fruit, doubling the yield and improving the survival rate of the seeds. Xia Xingchen looked at the silver fruit in his palm with burning eyes and whispered, "Treasure. This is a treasure of the universe. The crystallization of life technology. 2 fruits can grow in 15 days, and I can earn at least 100 million universe coins. Soon, I will become a rich man in the universe. Xia Xingchen can only earn 2 million universe coins a day now. It is already very fast to earn 30 million in 15 days, and the dream fruit has tripled Xia Xingchen's already extremely fast money making speed. Xia Xingchen took the dream fruit out of the cultivation room and handed it to Carlos. Carlos was also very excited. He left one dream fruit for a search and immediately replanted another dream fruit. Now is the initial stage, and the success rate of dream fruit germination must be guaranteed. After instrument detection, the life energy contained in the dream fruit is almost the same as the forbidden fruit of life. In the universe, it can be easily sold for at least 100 million universe coins. If it is taken to the black market, the price will be higher. 1 month later, Xia Xingchen already has 3 dream fruits in his hand, which can be sold at a high price of 300 million universe coins. Xingchen, we are rich. Carlos was very happy. 3 dream fruits, and the other fruits are also being cultivated in an orderly manner. What should we do next? We will sell the 3 fruits first and exchange them for money, so as not to have more troubles at night. Well, let me think about it. Xia Xingchen fell into deep thought. Selling the dream fruit is undoubtedly the safest way. But now, the problem Xia Xingchen faces is not just how to accumulate wealth. Having wealth is the first step. The second step is how to protect these wealth. This is also the problem faced by every rich person. If you don't have enough strength to protect your wealth, many villains will come to rob you. The weak will always be bullied in the universe. Soon, Xia Xingchen made a decision. Carlos, 300 million universe coins is indeed a huge sum of money. However, it is not enough to buy hyperspace energy transmission technology, and I can't be promoted to the second level of the galaxy. The problem we are facing now is that the dark web killers may come at any time. We must strengthen the defense of Star. Xia Xingchen analyzed. Indeed. Captain Gabriel had a tough battle with the assassin yesterday, and even Thunder Dragon was slightly injured. The assassin will become stronger and stronger. Carlos nodded. According to the current situation, Captain Gabriel and his men will not be able to hold on sooner or later. Well, so I made a decision. Xia Xingchen said slowly, sell all 3 dream fruits. 100 million universe coins will be used to buy a super energy core, to upgrade you to the first level of the galaxy. The remaining 200 million universe coins will all be used to post tasks on Star Trek. As a reward, they will send out more and stronger mercenary teams to buy time for us. 200 million universe coins, all of which are cheap for Star Trek. Carlos was stunned. Although he had joined Star Trek not long ago, due to the decision of the Star Trek Council, Carlos did not have a good impression of Star Trek as a whole. Yes, that's the only way. Xia Xingchen said in a deep voice, I plan to hire 3 mercenary teams and let Captain Gabriel lead them. Among the mercenaries of Xingi, the only ones I can trust are the Captain, Xingfeng, and Li Lang. Just do as you say. We are racing against time now. Some money has to be spent. Although Carlos was a little reluctant, he had to admit that Xia Xingchen's method was the most feasible. 200 million universe coins is just a small amount of money in the capital market of the celestial realm. However, this amount of money is a huge sum of money to hire Xingi mercenaries. Xia Xingchen negotiated with the Xingi mercenary group, and the other party immediately sent 3 mercenary teams to Star. They were the Kingling team ranked 32nd, the Xianhu team ranked 45th, the Gishan team ranked 47th. The combat effectiveness of these 3 teams far exceeds that of Gabriel. All the core members are 3-star mercenaries. Although there are no black hole level masters, their combat effectiveness is no less than that of Lei Yilong, and far exceeds that of Gabriel and Xingfeng. After all, Gabriel's Wanderer team is ranked outside the top 100 in the entire Xingi mercenary group, and is a low ranking team. And Gabriel's own combat effectiveness is even less worth mentioning. He is a nameless person in Xingi. Therefore, when the 3 mercenary teams rushed to Star and Xia Xingchen, wearing a black robe, announced that they would be led by Gabriel, the 3 unruly mercenary captains were stunned. Gabriel? Who is he? He is only a 2nd level galaxy warrior, so weak, how can he lead us? Employer, you'd better think again. That mercenary named Gabriel, although he is also 3 stars, is weak and has no ability to lead us. The captains of the 3 teams, Kingling, Xianhu, and Gishan, all stood up and expressed dissatisfaction with Xia Xingchen's decision. Even Gabriel himself was stunned, looking at Xia Xingchen in a black robe in surprise, and felt guilty. Employer, how can I lead and command them? Chapter 1693, Foodie Girl. No need to say more about this. Xia Xingchen waved his hand, seeming a little impatient. I'm the employer. I have the final say. You 3 mercenary teams must obey Gabriel's orders. If you are not satisfied, you can give up the mission, and I will let Zingy send other mercenaries who are willing to obey orders. Xia Xingchen's words were very overbearing, leaving no room for negotiation. He stared at the members of the 3 mercenary teams, waiting for their answers. With money on your body, you don't have to panic. The reason why Xia Xingchen is so strong is that he knows that the Shinran realm is a world where money is supreme and strength is respected. Here, money is everything. No matter how dissatisfied the mercenaries are, they will not go against money. We can't help it. He is the employer. The rich are the boss. It's meaningless for us to challenge the employer. If he really complains to Zingy, we will not only not get paid, but will be downgraded by the parliament. It's not worth it. Well, we give face to the employer on the surface, and pretend to obey the orders of Gabriel. In fact, we will do it according to our own methods and sideline him. Sure enough, facing the powerful Xia Xingchen, the captains of the 3 mercenary teams, Kingling, Xianhu, and Gishan, gathered together to discuss. Although they were dissatisfied, they finally surrendered. After Xia Xingchen finished his instructions, the 3 mercenary teams, a total of 22 mercenary members, left and deployed defenses in various places on Kingstar. Employer, I don't understand why you value me, Gabriel, so much. But, no matter what, I thank you. Thank you for valuing me so much, and entrusting me with important tasks. Gabriel came up, and thanked Xia Xingchen. At the same time, he was puzzled, wondering why the rich man in black robes in front of him favored him so much. Well, work hard and don't let me down. Xia Xingchen nodded gently. Now is not the time to reveal his identity to Gabriel. With 3 more mercenary teams defending Kingstar, the defense level of the entire planet has risen by several levels. It is impregnable. Darknet assassins below the 3rd level of the galaxy can no longer sneak in. However, there are still Darknet assassins rushing to Kingstar and being killed in outer space by the Zingy mercenaries. The interior of Kingstar is relatively calm. Xia Xingchen spent 100 million universe coins to buy a super energy core for Carlos, allowing him to successfully advance to the 1st level of the galaxy. After Carlos entered the 1st level of the galaxy, his combat ability did not improve much, but his computing ability had a qualitative leap. After Carlos' calculations, the composition of the culture fluid was improved, and the cultivation efficiency of the dream fruit was once again improved. The cultivation period was shortened from 15 days to 10 days, which was 1/3 faster. Xia Xingchen and Carlos continued to cultivate the dream fruit patiently. 3 months later, Xia Xingchen and Carlos already had 9 dream fruits. If they were sold, they would earn a huge sum of 900 million universe coins. In the past 3 months, Xia Xingchen's turnover has been growing, earning 100 million universe coins. In other words, Xia Xingchen and Carlos' assets have exceeded 1 billion. Even in the universe, people with 1 billion assets are rare, and they are part of the people at the top of the pyramid. Xingchen, how do you spend these 1 billion universe coins? Carlos asked. I have 2 ideas. One is to use this money for investment. The other is to continue to hire Star Trek mercenaries to ensure the safety of Kingstar. Recently, the dark web killers have become stronger and stronger, and even the 3rd level killers of the galaxy have appeared. Gabriel sent a message, hoping that we will further strengthen the defense of Kingstar, just in case. Well, Xia Xingchen pondered for a while. Carlos, you are best at capital operation and investment. Sooner or later, we will hand over all our money to you, so that you can manage it and make money with it. But now is not the right time. 1 billion universe coins are too little in the capital market and cannot make a big wave. As for using this money to hire Zingy mercenaries, it is equivalent to giving money to Zingy for nothing, which is not cost effective. Moreover, I don't want to hand my fate over to others. Xia Xingchen said. Xingchen, you are right. But 1 billion universe coins are not enough to promote you to the second level of the galaxy. Moreover, even if you are promoted to the second level of the galaxy, your combat power is not strong. Carlos said. I'm not talking about me, but Xiao Bei. I'm not going to sell these dream fruits. Xia Xingchen said. Xiao Bei is a star-eating bug, a life on the physical side. One dream fruit will allow it to successfully promote to the first level of the galaxy. If it eats all these 9 dream fruits, how far can it evolve? Xia Xingchen's eyes were shining, and his heart was full of expectations. The technological side, the physical side, and the soul side. The 5 major races in the celestial realm basically evolve in these 3 directions. Among them, the soul side is the most incredible and mysterious. The technological side costs the most money to upgrade, but the combat effectiveness is also the strongest. On the physical side, the money required to upgrade the level is much less, and the speed of upgrading is also fast in the early stage. However, after entering the black hole level, the speed of cultivation becomes slow, so there are relatively fewer peak strongmen on the physical side. Xiao Bei is a Zerg, and a very rare star-eating worm among the Zerg. He has a strong talent. Even in the celestial realm, where there are many strong men, he is an extremely powerful race. Xiao Bei. Xia Xingchen waved his hand, and a human girl with a pretty face and a petite figure appeared in front of him. Xiao Bei had been in a deep sleep since her last evolution. When she was woken up by Xia Xingchen, there was still transparent drool at the corner of her mouth. She yawned and stretched, then she opened her eyes, and looked at Xia Xingchen, happily shouting, "Master! Is there anything good to call me again? The fruit you gave me last time was so delicious. I just woke up, and I want to eat it." Xia Xingchen was a little speechless, looking at the petite foodie girl in front of him. Xiao Bei was a little embarrassed and smiled with her head tilted. "But you really guessed it right. These dream fruits are all yours." Xia Xingchen handed all the 9 silver fruits in his hand to Xiao Bei. "Oh my god. So many. I'm not dreaming." Xiao Bei drawled, his eyes shining, stretched out his hand to pinch his little face, and found that it was not a dream. He cheered, flew to Xia Xingchen, and kissed him hard on the cheek. "I asked you to eat the dream fruit, not me." Xia Xingchen looked helpless, watching Xiao Bei cheering, and secretly happy in his heart. After Xiao Bei had enough of the trouble, he swallowed all 9 dream fruits in one breath, and immediately began to spin silken cocoon, entering the evolution state. "Carlos, can you deduce the result of Xiao Bei's evolution?" Xia Xingchen looked at Carlos. "No." Carlos answered decisively, "Life is wonderful, and it is not something that a small artificial intelligence like me can deduce. However, the 9 dream fruits provide huge life energy, which can at least allow Xiao Bei to advance to the second level of the galaxy, or even higher." Chapter 1694 The Slayer. Hearing Carlos' words, Xia Xingchen nodded slightly. The universe is infinite, and life is infinite. Even if they are the same creatures, they are different in race, and it is difficult for them to understand each other. What's more, even their life forms are different. There is a saying among humans, "Those who are not of my race must have different hearts." Although the saying is extreme, it is true. Communication, understanding, and recognition will always be the eternal topics of intelligent creatures. Xia Xingchen is a carbon-based human. Carlos is an artificial intelligence. 2 completely different life forms can become friends who support each other and share life and death, which is rare in the universe. Although Carlos cannot speculate what level Xiao Bei can evolve to, however, Xia Xingchen and Xiao Bei are connected in spirit and can vaguely feel the excitement in Xiao Bei's heart. Xiao Bei, don't be too stressed. Life evolution is not a simple thing. Just let it go. Xia Xingchen said silently in his heart. A desolate planet not far from King Star. Swish, swish, swish. A dozen figures passed through the planet's thin atmosphere and landed in the center of a huge crater, with smoke rising. Creation. A humanoid creature 100 meters tall, wearing steel armor and emitting a dazzling blue light, stretched out his right hand and shouted in a deep voice. In the blink of an eye, a dozen huge stone chairs appeared out of thin air, and these figures sat on their respective stone chairs. You are all famous killers on the dark web, and you have always been alone. Today you will gather on this desolate planet to discuss the assassination of Xia Xingchen. There are 4 Star Trek mercenary groups defending Star, which is as solid as a rock. I, Man Q, suggest that the 13 of us split into 2 teams, one team to lure, and the other team to sneak into the planet to assassinate Xia Xingchen. The speaker was a human with a bull's head and a human body. He was covered with curly black hair, had well-developed muscles, and carried a huge axe behind him. His body was very strong. Nonsense. How will the reward be distributed after killing Xia Xingchen? Or thin human with a pointed mouth and monkey cheeks, like a mouse, shouted. Of course it's an equal distribution. Man Q said in a muffled voice. Equal distribution? The reward for killing Xia Xingchen is high, but if it's divided into 13 parts, it's pitifully small. I don't agree. That's right, I don't care. At most, I'll give up the mission. The universe is so big, you don't have to kill Xia Xingchen to make money. I like to act alone, and gang action doesn't suit my personality. The other dark web killers all disagreed with Man Q's opinion, and chose to withdraw. These dark web killers are not weak. The weakest one is also a galaxy level 2, among which Man Q, the blue light giant, and the skinny mouse man are even galaxy level 3 strong. If they can unite as one, it will be easy to break through the Star. However, the killers don't trust each other, and they can't leave their backs to others. Since you don't agree, then just pretend that I, Man Q, didn't say it. Man Q looked disappointed, and shook his head slowly. At this moment, a thunderbolt struck from the sky. Boom. The thunderbolt fell in the center of the crater. A white mist rose, and a dark figure faintly appeared in it. The figure was not tall, and exuded a strong murderous aura. The 13 dark web assassins, who had killed countless people, and walked out of a sea of blood and corpses, could not help but hold their breath when faced with this strong murderous aura that was as real as substance. This murderous aura. Could it be? No way, it can't be that madman. The 13 assassins opened their mouths and eyes wide, and their faces were full of shock. A bloody name popped up in their hearts: the Slayer. The 7th rank terrorist assassin in the dark web assassins, with a mysterious identity, strong strength, and enjoy killing. Ordinary assassins kill for rewards. Except for the target, no one else is willing to kill more. Because, every time they kill a person, they need to charge a fee. The Slayer is different. Even if there is no reward, the Slayer will accept the task. Even when there is no task, he will even go to some wild starfields that are not under the jurisdiction of the heavenly realm to wantonly slaughter indigenous creatures. Although they are called indigenous creatures, in fact, the civilization level of most lives is very high, no less than that of galactic humans. The Slayer destroyed dozens of large civilizations like the Galactic Empire alone. It's him, all black, full of ominous smell. I heard that the Slayer comes from a race with strong vitality, and he became like this after being exposed to the cosmic death light. He is full of violent energy, and he must keep venting it to keep the energy stable. Otherwise, he will explode and die. A strong man at the peak of the 3rd level of the galaxy is only one step away from the black hole level. We are not his opponent. Man Q coughed and stepped forward respectfully. Great Slayer, what is your purpose in coming here? Are you joining forces with us? My purpose is always to kill. The Slayer's body was filled with black energy, and his voice was hoarse. As soon as the voice fell, the Slayer suddenly stretched out his right hand, and a dark death light sprayed out from the palm of his hand, like a black spear piercing Man Q. Man Q had been on guard against the Slayer. Although the Slayer's attack was very sudden, he still pulled out the giant axe from behind, and used the axe face to resist the black light. The giant axe in Man Q's hand was made of special metal. It had been with him for many years, and helped him defeat countless enemies that he could not defeat. The killer was notorious. Man Q did not think he could defeat him, but he also did not think that he would be killed by a single blow while on the defensive. However, the black death light directly penetrated the thick axe blade of the giant axe, and pierced into Man Q's body. The violent energy contained in the death light quickly decomposed Man Q's strong body, and turned it into countless tiny cubes, which dissipated in an instant. Boom. The broken giant axe fell where Man Q was originally standing, and Man Q himself had died. It's just as the rumors say, the killer is a madman. Run. Although he is powerful, he may not be able to catch up with us. Many of the dark web killers are good at hiding and escaping. They know that it is meaningless to reason with a madman like the killer, so they immediately turned around and ran away. I can't catch up with you? You underestimate me too much. The killer snorted coldly, and his body turned into a black light and suddenly disappeared on the spot. Boom boom boom. The sky above the planet continued to explode, and groups of fireballs appeared and fell to the ground. Every explosion killed a dark web killer. In less than 90 seconds, all 12 dark web killers were killed by the Slayer. The Slayer landed on the surface of the planet, with a slightly raised corner of his mouth, a satisfied smile on his face. These weak ants are all dead. No one can stop me from killing Xia Xingchen. The reward is all mine. No one is qualified to share the same piece of cake with me. The Slayer laughed coldly, turned into a black light again, and flew towards the direction of Kahung Star. Chapter 1695, Killing Feast. Kahung Star, Outer Space. The 4 Star Trek teams of Gabriel, Kingling, Gishan, and Cheyenne who guard the 4 directions of Kahung Star respectively. According to Gabriel's arrangement, team members patrol the 4 directions 24 hours a day. If there is an enemy attack in any direction, other teams will immediately provide support. However, except for the north, which Gabriel is responsible for defending, the patrol lines in the other 3 directions are empty. In a Star Trek mercenary spaceship, the captains of the 3 teams of Kingling, Gishan, and Cheyenne, as well as the core members, gathered together to drink. It's not good for us to take a break here, the captain of the Gishan team whispered with a glass of wine in his hand. What's wrong with that? Aren't there drones arranged on the patrol line? It's ridiculous for us to listen to the orders of that man named Gabriel. Captain Kingling sneered. Yeah, I think the employer of this Hang Sing is also a fool. Just fool him. The assassins who came recently are very weak. Gabriel can handle them alone. Captain Cheyenne raised his glass with a smile. We can earn rewards while drinking. Where can we find such a good thing? Ha ha ha. Everyone laughed and was very happy. Ha. A UFO appeared in the starry sky that the Ghost Squad is responsible for. On the other side, Gabriel, Xingfeng, and Li Long were all working hard and patrolling in the starry sky in turns. Xingfeng had the strongest perception ability and was the first to discover a dark light flying towards Hang Sing. Not good. The UFO is transmitting a high energy reaction. Li Long quickly turned on the detector, took a look, and his face suddenly changed. Enemy attack. It must be the enemy. Quickly notify the other team members and prepare to fight the enemy. Gabriel shouted hurriedly. Beep beep. An emergency signal was transmitted, making a harsh buzzing sound. HMM. Gabriel's message. Captain Gishan drank a lot of wine and was a little tipsy. He looked down. Who cares? Anyway, he ordered us to work. Captain Kingling waved his hand in disgust. In the spaceship, no one paid attention to this emergency signal. They continued to drink and sing. A dark figure silently came out of the spaceship. Everyone is in high spirits. The Slayer laughed coldly. Enjoy it. This is your last dinner. Boom. The Slayer waved his hand, and a black death light blasted out, piercing the spaceship from the center, and a huge hole appeared. Enemy attack. It's the dark web assassin. This dark figure, the black death light, could it be the Slayer? The mercenaries in the spaceship were all panicked. Death ray of annihilation. The Slayer shouted in a low voice, raised his hands high, and a huge black light ball appeared in his palms, with black energy waves lingering on the surface. Boom. The black light ball was thrown out and hit the spaceship. There was a burst of darkness around, as if all the light was absorbed by the light ball, and then compressed into a fist-sized light core, which suddenly exploded. Boom. A rising sun appeared, and all the matter within a radius of 100,000 kilometers was burned to ashes. Kingling, Cheyenne, Gishan, the mercenaries of the 3 teams were all killed by the Slayer. Oh no. Gabriel, Xingfeng, and Li Lan were rushing towards the direction of the spaceship, but before they arrived, a huge explosion occurred. The strong shock wave made Gabriel and the other 2 unstable, and Xingfeng, the weakest, was even blown back a few steps. All destroyed? Damn it. It turned out to be the Slayer's move. Gabriel gritted his teeth and said angrily. Even if it's the Slayer, if the 3 teams of mercenaries unite, they can also compete with him. After all, the Slayer is only the peak of the 3rd level of the galaxy, not the Star Master of the black hole level. Lei Long shook his head slowly. They died because of their own arrogance and carelessness, and they can't blame others. The key is, what should we do on the hanging star? Xingfeng bit his lip and said, there are only 3 of us left, and we are definitely not the opponent of the Slayer. Why don't we run away? This Gabriel didn't think for too long, and said decisively, no. It is the duty of mercenaries to protect the safety of the employer. What's more, this employer has been very kind to us. At this critical moment of life and death, I can't give up on him. Of course. The strength of the Slayer is indeed too strong, and he is a madman who enjoys slaughtering. You two go. I will go to the hanging star alone, at least to rescue the employer. Whoosh. After Gabriel finished speaking, he flew towards the hanging star. Eat the Emperor's salary, be loyal to the Emperor, abandon the employer and run away. Such a despicable thing. Gabriel would not do it. Captain, we'll go with you. The 3 of us together will have a better chance of success. We must rescue our employer. Xingfeng and Li Long also caught up. Okay. Gabriel didn't say much, just nodded slightly, but his heart was full of gratitude. What is a brother who goes through life and death together? They are. In the blink of an eye, the 3 of them passed through the atmosphere and entered the interior of the hanging star. Boom boom boom. The planet was full of explosions and flames. In the red flames, dark death lights could be seen flying out from time to time. The Slayer was wantonly destroying the defense facilities on the planet. Laser cannons, missiles, combat robots. These defense facilities can withstand the strong below the 2nd level of the galaxy. However, for the Slayer of the peak of the 3rd level of the galaxy, except for temporarily delaying his pace, there is no other effect. Soon, the Slayer arrived in front of the research institute. The Slayer is too fast. The employer is in danger. Gabriel's face changed. I'll stop him. Captain, you go take the employer away. Lei Long's pupils suddenly shrank, and he said in a deep voice, I'll also help Lei Long. Crossing Feng shouted loudly. Without waiting for Gabriel to stop him, the 2 had already flown over and landed in front of the Slayer. Slayer, I heard that you are very strong, and I, Lei Long, will also fight you. Thunder energy surged throughout Lei Long's body, crackling, and there were countless arcs of electricity on his hair. Nobody, are you worthy? The Slayer's voice was extremely cold, without any nonsense, and he suddenly raised his hand. Whoosh. The black death light shot out, like a spear, flying towards Lei Long. What? The speed of this death light spear was amazingly fast, and Lei Long was shocked, and only had time to condense a thunder shield in front of him. However, the black death light spear directly pierced the thunder shield and hit Lei Long, carrying him backwards, and nailed to the wall. Crackling. The energy of the death ray penetrated into the body of the thunder dragon from the wound, trying to decompose his organs. However, the thunder energy in the thunder dragon's body was desperately fighting against the energy of the death ray, blocking it. Oh. The body was not decomposed by the death ray, it was quite a bit. But, that's all. The Slayer laughed coldly. Gabriel was terrified watching from a distance. The strongest thunder dragon was not even a match for the Slayer? Chapter 1696. A gentleman can be killed but not humiliated. Thunder Dragon. Seeing that Thunder Dragon was defeated in one move and nailed to the wall by the Slayer's deathlight spear, Xingfeng's beautiful eyes were red, and she shouted angrily and rushed forward. Woman, you are not bad looking. I will spare your life. The Slayer smiled coldly. He was not a man who was kind to women. The deathlight energy surged in his body, destroying most of his body functions and turning him into a monster that was neither human nor ghost. However, the male function was still preserved, and due to the loss of other body functions, this part of the function became very powerful. Every time the Slayer slaughtered a planet, he would deliberately leave some beautiful women to vent his lust. The Slayer's body was full of deathlight energy, so the final end of these women was tragic death, without exception. Swish. The Slayer waved his hand, and a huge deathlight net of 100 meters long appeared, covering the sky and the earth. His control of energy has reached an extremely high level. Not only can it be transformed into a spear, but also into a huge net. Xingfeng was still rushing forward. When she looked up, she saw a huge net. She dodged it quickly, but it was too late. This huge net was like a big hand, slapping Xingfeng to the ground. The net rope formed by the black death light tightly strangled her body. Xingfeng was a second level galaxy. Her energy was too different from that of the Slayer. No matter how she struggled, she could not break free from the shackles of this net. This was because the Slayer was holding back. If he didn't hold back, a long spear of death light would be shot out. As long as it scratched the oily skin of Xingfeng's body, the death light energy would enter the body and decompose the body into tiny particles. In just a blink of an eye, Xingfeng and Li Long were captured one after another, completely disrupting Gabriel's plan. Too strong. The Slayer is really too strong. I misjudged his strength and made a big mistake. Gabriel was still dozens of kilometers away from the Slayer. Looking at this man emitting a dark light from a distance, he felt a strong sense of oppression and even couldn't breathe. It's useless to think about these things at this time. Lei Long, crossing Feng, if we have to die, we die together. Gabriel exhaled, his eyes showed a resolute look, gave up the plan to enter the institute, and flew quickly in the direction of the killer. Another one is here to die. The killer had already discovered Gabriel's traces, looking at the direction he flew from, with a cold smile on his face. Inside the institute, Xia Xingchen stared at the big screen with a deadly look, and Collis stood behind Xia Xingchen with a nervous expression, also looking at the big screen. On the screen, the killer, who was emitting terrifying energy fluctuations, was wantonly destroying the fortifications on Qiheng Star. The smoke was filled with gunpowder, the flames of war were raging, and there were broken walls and ruins everywhere, a messy scene. Qiheng Star was Xia Xingchen's first foothold in the Shanren realm. For him, it was home. Every building here was designed by Xia Xingchen himself, and built by Carlos. And now, his home was destroyed by the enemy. Xia Xingchen felt a pang of pain in his heart. Of course, even if the homeland was destroyed, it could be rebuilt. What made Xia Xingchen even more painful was that Xingfeng and Li Long were defeated and captured alive by the Slayer. Although Xia Xingchen always claimed that he only trusted Carlos in the heavenly world. But in fact, Xia Xingchen silently remembered the friendship of Gabriel, Xingfeng and Li Long. Looking at Li Long pinned to the wall by the death light spear, Xingfeng covered by the giant net, and Gabriel who was fighting with the Slayer, and was beaten and fled. Xia Xingchen felt heavy in his heart, and a noun emerged from his heart friend. That's right. Although Xia Xingchen was unwilling to admit it, he had long regarded Gabriel and the other two as his friends. The reason he was unwilling to admit it was because he was too weak, and his opponent, the Eternal God Clan, was too powerful. Becoming Xia Xingchen's friend is likely to face endless pursuit. The price is too high. It is precisely because of this that Xia Xingchen is deliberately avoiding and deliberately keeping a distance from Gabriel and the other three. But people are all made of flesh. Although they were of different races, Gabriel's generous and friendly smile deeply impressed Xia Xingchen. When Xia Xingchen had just entered the heaven realm and was at a loss in the face of the vast and complex world, it was Gabriel who reached out to help. Friend. Xia Xingchen clenched his fists tightly, and tears had already filled his eyes. Carlos, Gabriel and the others could have escaped, but they risked their lives to save us. Although the two of us are very weak. But for this friendship, we can only fight to the death. If we want to live, we will live together, and if we want to die, we will die together. Xia Xingchen turned his head and looked at Carlos. Yes. Carlos nodded, his eyes determined. You are not afraid of death, so what should I be afraid of? Xia Xingchen took the lead and walked out in the direction of the gate. Sooner or later, the research institute will be breached by the killer. Instead of waiting to die, it is better to fight to the death. Of course, Xia Xingchen knew very well that the killer was too powerful and the chance of winning was very small. For now, there is only one battle. The moment Xia Xingchen walked out of the door, his soul suddenly felt a throbbing. It was Xiaobei's excited voice. Master, I've evolved. I'm so hungry. I'm so hungry. Outside the research institute, the Slayer shot out a black light from his hand, accurately hitting Gabriel and blasting him down from the sky. Weak bug. The Slayer stepped forward, stepped on Gabriel's chest with one foot, and placed the sharp tip of the black spear in his hand on his throat. Gulp. Gulp. Gabriel's mouth was full of blood foam, and he kept spitting out blood, unable to say a word. Kill me. A soldier can be killed but not humiliated. Gabriel made a vague sound from his throat. Ha ha ha, you want me to kill you? Who do you think you are? Dare to order me, the Slayer. The Slayer said sarcastically, I won't kill you, but I will humiliate you. Swish. The Slayer waved his hand, and the spear in his hand pierced Gabriel's chest, picked him up on the tip of the spear, and raised him high. Blood continued to flow down the gun, and was evaporated by high energy, before it touched the killer's hand. Enough. A loud shout resounded over the King Star. A man in a black robe walked out of the research institute, followed by a tall robot. Employer. Why don't you take the opportunity to escape? Escape. Run away. Lei Long and Crossing Feng's eyes turned red when they saw the black-robed man coming out. Gabriel was also coughing up blood, staring at the figure of the black-robed man. What was they trying to achieve by fighting the killer to death? Of course, they hoped that the employer could take the opportunity to escape while they were entangled with the killer. Of course, they all knew in their hearts that with the strength of the employer's first-level galaxy, it was impossible to escape from the killer's hands. They just hoped that their sacrifice would be worthwhile. But now, this luck is also completely shattered. Chapter 1697 Revealing Identity. Slayer, stop it. The person you are looking for is me, not them. Xia Xingchen walked out of the institute in a black robe, not even driving a mecha, facing the Slayer with his fragile body, and said coldly, finally out. How boring. I wanted to kill these bodyguards of yours and enjoy your trembling fear in the institute. The Slayer laughed coldly. He had already locked Xia Xingchen's position and knew that he was in the institute and did not escape, so he was not in a hurry to destroy the buildings outside the institute and kill the bodyguards. The Slayer is not an ordinary killer. Ordinary killers directly assassinate the target, and once the mission is completed, they will quickly evacuate to avoid any unexpected situation. The Slayer is different. For him, killing itself is a kind of fun, and he enjoys it. It is this character of the Slayer that makes him notorious in the starry sky. Even dark web killers deliberately avoid associating with the Slayer. Once they know that they have received the same mission as the Slayer, the dark web killers will generally choose to give up the mission. I repeat, let them go. Xia Xingchen looked at the Slayer and said again, order me? A weakling of the first rank in the galaxy dares to order the Slayer? Who gave you the courage? The Slayer grinned, and the long spear of death in his hand pierced Gabriel's body, and blood fell like raindrops. If it weren't for Gabriel's strong body and tenacious vitality, he would have died at this time. Gabriel's vitality quickly faded, and he gasped violently and shouted, employer, go. I'll hold him. You go quickly, this is the last chance. Captain. Xia Xingchen's cheeks felt cold, and tears could not help but fall. At this time, Gabriel was still thinking about his own safety. Xia Xingchen was deeply moved. Recalling that he had suspected Gabriel, and had always concealed his identity from him, Xia Xingchen felt ashamed. Men like Gabriel are extremely rare in the universe, especially in the cruel and indifferent world of heaven and man. Captain. Xia Xingchen finally couldn't help it, and took off his black robe, revealing his true face. This black robe can shield the spirit power and conceal the identity. Once it is taken off, Xia Xingchen's spirit power will also spread. Ah. Xia Xingchen. It's you. That rich employer who saved us from the predicament is Xia Xingchen. Gabriel, Xingfeng, and Li Long were all stunned, their eyes widened, staring at Xia Xingchen, their faces full of disbelief. They had also guessed the identity of this generous black-robe employer, but they never thought that he was Xia Xingchen. Xingchen, you no wonder the employer is so good to us. I have always wondered that rich employers are generally powerful. Why do they let Xing's mercenaries take charge of security? And why do dark web killers keep coming? It turns out to be you. Gabriel and the other two were stunned and didn't know what to say for a while. Xingchen, run away. Although you are a mecha master, you are no match for the killer. Run away, run away. Gabriel was the first to react from the shock and screamed loudly. Shut up. The Slayer was furious, and the spear in his hand began to glow and release high temperature. Gabriel, a man of iron, could not bear it and wailed loudly. Xia Xingchen. You should know that the people who put a bounty on you are the Eternal God clan. I have always been very surprised that you are just a weakling of the first level of the galaxy. The Eternal God clan only needs one finger to crush you, a little ant, to death. Could it be that you are very good at escaping? For example, you have an extremely fast spaceship? It doesn't matter, just run away. I will keep chasing you and kill all your friends, relatives, races, and even people who have met and talked to you. I'm happy to do so. Ha ha ha. The Slayer laughed wildly. His expression was extremely crazy. The Slayer is a complete lunatic. But such a sinful lunatic can survive in the world of heaven and man, and his IQ is not low. From the attitude of the Eternal God clan towards Xia Xingchen, he inferred that Xia Xingchen might have a cosmic secret treasure that is good at escaping. Of course, the Slayer's speculation was wrong. If Xia Xingchen had a cosmic secret treasure to escape, his first choice would be to leave the celestial realm and return to the Milky Way. Now even if Xia Xingchen wanted to leave the celestial realm, it would not be so easy. How could someone like you become a powerful cosmic being? Xia Xingchen gritted his teeth and shook his head slowly, his eyes full of disappointment. He was not disappointed with the killer. He was disappointed with the celestial realm. Xia Xingchen originally yearned for the celestial realm and thought it was a paradise-like place. There was no war, no hatred, and no discrimination. All the major races in the universe lived and worked in peace. Facts have proved that Xia Xingchen was wrong. Very wrong. That's right. We humans are in the Milky Way, and those celestial beings are trying to destroy humans across the Milky Way barrier with all the hardships. How could they be kind people? Xia Xingchen shook his head and smiled bitterly. He had a deeper understanding of the cruelty of the celestial realm. Xia Xingchen, I've heard some rumors that you are a human. An ancient race that was wiped out by the eternal gods. You may have a treasure in your hand. If you give it to me, I will spare the lives of these rubbish. The Slayer sneered. His strength was far superior to Xia Xingchen's, and he had a firm control over the situation. Therefore, he was not in a hurry at all, and blackmailed Xia Xingchen to seek greater benefits. If you let them go, I will give you the treasure. Xia Xingchen said lightly. Okay, I'm not afraid of your tricks. If you dare to lie to me, I only need 10 seconds to kill you all. The Slayer thought for a while, then nodded and agreed. With a wave of his hand, the death energy disappeared. Plop, plop. Gabriel and Thunder Dragon both fell from midair. The giant net on Xingfeng's body also disappeared, and he struggled to stand up. Where is the treasure? Give it to me. The Slayer stared at Xia Xingchen, observing his every move, and was cautious. Although the Slayer didn't think Xia Xingchen could play any tricks, he still used all his strength to fight the rabbit, so it was always right for him to be more careful. Xia obey. Xia Xingchen watched Gabriel leave the Slayer, just 100 meters away, and the corners of his mouth slightly raised, revealing a smile, and suddenly roared. Boom. Along with Xia Xingchen's roar, the ground shook. It seemed that the entire Kaheng star was shaking. Roar. A huge dragon shadow suddenly rushed out from the ground, and its huge mouth opened to a size of 100 meters, swallowing the Slayer whole in one gulp. Plus, if you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 1698 Black Hole Level. Boom. A huge dragon shadow sprang out from the ground, swallowed up the Slayer in one gulp, and rushed up to the sky from top to bottom. Its body was actually 10,000 meters long, its head was already above the clouds, and its tail was actually still hidden in the soil. What is that? Is it the spiritual beast raised by Xia Xingchen? It's his insect spiritual beast. When did it become so huge? Gabriel and others were stunned, staring at the dragon-like giant insect with wide eyes. Xia obey. You really evolved successfully, even I'm a little surprised. Xia Xingchen smiled slightly, looking at the giant insect in front of him. It was the star-devouring insect Queen Xia obey. However, Xia obey has now surpassed the level of the Queen Mother, and even it itself is not quite clear what kind of life form it has reached. Swallow me. How stupid. The Slayer was in Xiaobei's body, surrounded by strong acid that could melt gold and burn stones. As long as the Slayer's body touched a little, his body would be completely melted. However, the Slayer's body emitted a black death light, and the high amount of energy spread completely evaporated the strong acid, making it unable to get close to his body. Just a little bug. You really don't know how high the sky is, and how deep the earth is. The Slayer laughed coldly, clenched his fists, and the black death light turned into a protective shield, which suddenly spread out in all directions. Break it for me. The Slayer roared, ready to let the death light break Xiaobei's body. However, the dark death light energy touched Xiaobei's body and disappeared strangely. What's going on? The Slayer was stunned. He felt that the death light energy he released disappeared without a trace when it touched the inner intestinal wall. The Slayer had never encountered such a strange situation before. Racial talent? But I have never heard of any kind of Zerg in the universe that can resist my death light energy. Unless. The Slayer suddenly thought of a possibility, and his face turned pale in an instant. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. The Slayer shook his head to himself. His expression was uncertain. There is only one possibility that can absorb his death light energy. That is, a black hole level powerhouse. A black hole level powerhouse is far more powerful than a galaxy level powerhouse. For galaxy level celestial beings, black hole level is even equivalent to a different form of life. The difference in strength is equivalent to that of celestial beings and quasi-celestial beings. In the celestial world, black hole level is also extremely rare. For example, in the Star Trek mercenary group, there are less than 100 black hole level strongmen on record. The Slayer really couldn't believe that there would be a black hole level on the small planet Xia Star. Impossible. I don't believe it. The Slayer vented his energy crazily, but all the energy he released was absorbed by Xiaobei's body. Xiaobei's body was like a bottomless pit. No matter how much energy it absorbed, it would not be filled. It is indeed a black hole level. It is indeed. At this time, the Slayer had to believe it. This giant insect is indeed a rare black hole level celestial being. The Slayer is at the peak of the galaxy level. He is invincible below the galaxy level. Even if it is 1 on 10, or even 1 on 20, he will not lose. However, the Slayer has no way to deal with the black hole level Xiaobei. The Slayer can only vent his energy in vain, and finally his energy is exhausted. His body is swallowed by strong acid, and he dies in despair. This arrogant and crazy killer finally died in Xiaobei's body. All his energy was absorbed by Xiaobei and turned into nutrients. Hiccup. Xiaobei couldn't help but burp, curled up, and returned to the underground. Before he could communicate with Xia Xingchen, he fell asleep. After absorbing the energy of the killer's death ray, Xiaobei needed to rest well and digest it slowly. Dead. The killer just died like that? We are not dreaming. Gabriel and the other two were all shocked and had not yet fully reacted. A few days later, the killer wreaked havoc on Xia Star, and the institute lost a lot of equipment. Carlos has been busy with reconstruction work. Gabriel, Xingfeng, and Li Long were seriously injured, but Xia Xingchen used the best medicines and medical methods for them, and they recovered quickly. At this time, several people gathered in the conference room of the institute to discuss the next plan. Captain, I didn't mean to deceive you, it's really. Xia Xingchen stood up and apologized to Gabriel again. Be a man. The past is the past. I don't care. Why do you care so much? Besides, I know your enemy is powerful. You do this to protect yourself. Gabriel, with a thick bandage on his chest, sat in a wheelchair and laughed heartily. Yes, my enemy is too powerful. Xia Xingchen was still in shock. The strength of the Slayer exceeded his expectations. Even the 3 Star Trek mercenary teams were no match for him. You know, the Slayer is just a killer driven by profit. If Xiaobei hadn't evolved to the black hole level, the consequences would be really unimaginable. What if the Eternal Protoss took action personally? Xia Xingchen was sure that the Star Trek would never take action to protect himself. Xingchen, don't blame Xingi. Gabriel persuaded. Before, I didn't know that your enemy was the Eternal God Clan. If I knew, I would never let you join Xingi. For the Eternal God Clan, Xingi is really not good enough. Xingi's top leaders were able to disobey the Eternal God Clan and did not hand you over directly. In fact, they have done their best. Are the Eternal God clan really that powerful? Xia Xingchen whispered. Of course they are powerful. Each of the 10 peak God clan is extremely terrifying. Gabriel said in a deep voice. Their horror cannot be described in words. And I think you know better than me. Your ancestors should be ancient humans, who were once the 13th most powerful race in the universe, but they were destroyed by the Eternal God clan. Indeed. Xia Xingchen nodded. If his opponents were only the Elder and the Mechanical clan, then the Xingyi mercenary group would definitely be able to guarantee his safety. However, facing the Eternal God clan, the Xingyi mercenary group is also powerless. Besides, the Xingyi mercenary group is not worth it to go against the powerful Eternal God clan for a small 5-star mercenary. But I don't understand. Why haven't the Eternal Gods taken action against me yet? Xia Xingchen asked. It's simple, because they don't care. The Eternal Gods are very powerful, and have many enemies. Each enemy has a corresponding danger rating. Only when the danger level reaches a certain level will the Eternal Gods deal with it personally. If it does not reach this level, they will only offer a reward, and send assassins to clean it up. Although the Eternal Gods are powerful, they have a small population, so their danger rating system is understandable. Gabriel said, but the slaughterer was killed by your spirit beast. According to my inference, the Eternal Gods will soon raise your rating. Maybe, soon a strong man from the Eternal Gods will come to kill you personally. Not only are you unsafe now, but you are even more dangerous. Chapter 1699, Spacetime Academy. After hearing Gabriel's analysis, Xia Xingchen's face changed drastically. He knew in his heart that what Gabriel said was true. Captain, how can I survive in the celestial realm? Xia Xingchen stood up, bowed to Gabriel, and asked humbly. In terms of seniority, Xia Xingchen and Colossus have become celestial beings for too short a time, and do not know enough about the celestial realm. All along, Xia Xingchen felt like a headless fly, wandering around in the celestial realm. The reason why he can survive until now is, first, Xia Xingchen is lucky. Second, it is because the Eternal Gods did not take action personally. Once the Eternal Gods take action, Xia Xingchen's good luck will end. Xia Xingchen was full of anger and murderous intent in the face of the constant oppression of the Elder Celestials and the Eternal Gods. However, both are too powerful. Although Xia Xingchen was angry, he could not even guarantee his own safety, so how could he compete with the Elder and the Eternal Gods? Therefore, Xia Xingchen urgently needed a senior who knew the celestial realm very well, to point out a clear way for him. Gabriel was indeed the best candidate. Xingchen, I did think of 2 solutions. Gabriel nodded slightly, looking at Xia Xingchen with praise in his eyes. In the celestial realm, most young people, especially geniuses like Xia Xingchen, are stubborn and arrogant, and few are willing to listen to the advice of seniors. Xia Xingchen is also arrogant, but he can listen to other people's opinions humbly, which is really precious. The first solution is that you return to the Milky Way immediately. You have a black hole level spirit beast to protect you. As long as you are fast enough, the Eternal Gods should not have time to attack you. I heard that the Milky Way is protected by a galaxy barrier. Even the Eternal Gods will be helpless against you in a short time. Gabriel said in a deep voice. Go home. Xia Xingchen's eyes lit up. He really missed home. He missed his father, master, and teacher every day. Of course, he missed his wife, Princess Xia the most. But just run back like this? Xia Xingchen was a little unwilling. Captain, what about the second solution? Xia Xingchen asked. The second way is to join an organization that is stronger than the Star Trek mercenary group and can compete with the Eternal Gods. Use this organization as a backer and make long-term plans after ensuring safety. Gabriel said. An organization stronger than the Star Trek mercenary group. Xia Xingchen's body shook. Star Trek is already one of the 3 major organizations of the human race. Stronger than Star Trek, it should be the Universal Company and the 10 top gods. In Xia Xingchen's cognition, the most powerful is the Universal Company, which controls the entire virtual universe, and then the 10 top gods. In addition, Xia Xingchen doesn't know what organization can compete with them. Haha, the Universal Company, the 10 top gods are strong, but they are not the strongest in the universe. The universe is big. As far as I know, there are 4 places that can completely ignore the Eternal Gods. Gabriel laughed. What place? Even the eternal gods are not taken seriously? Xia Xingchen's eyes flashed. In his mind, the eternal gods are already the strongest race in the universe. An eternal god can kill the earth and the gods of the earth. How terrifying is the strength of the entire eternal Protoss? There are actually organizations that do not take the eternal Protoss seriously, and there are as many as 4 of them. These 4 organizations are the Spacetime Academy, the Order Tower, the Chaos Star Abyss, and the Cemetery of Life and Death. Gabriel took a deep breath and said these 4 names with a look of fascination on his face. It is said that behind these organizations, there are true gods who are beyond the heavens and humans. Of course, this is just a legend. Gabriel said, as far as I know, the Eternal Protoss is under the control of the Order Tower, and they have to supply a large amount of resources to the Order Tower every year. The Eternal Protoss also has to supply to the Order Tower. Xia Xingchen took a breath of cold air, and a storm of waves rose in his heart. The Eternal Protoss, one of the top 10 races in the heavenly world, a superpower standing above the countless races in the universe, has to supply to the Order Tower. Xia Xingchen felt that his worldview was about to be overturned. Gabriel's words were really shocking. No matter how powerful the Eternal God Clan is, it has only been 1,000,000 years since they ascended to the heavenly realm. The 4 major forces in the universe have existed for a very long time, even hundreds of millions of years. For example, the Spacetime Academy. Some people say that a powerful person established the academy when the universe was just born. Gabriel continued. Isn't it more than 10 billion years since the birth of the universe? Xia Xingchen took a breath again. The 4 major organizations have existed for a very long time, and it is impossible to trace them. In their eyes, the rise and fall of any race in the universe is just a blink of an eye. These 4 major organizations pursue the ultimate truth of the universe and true eternity. They simply disdain to participate in the disputes in the heavenly realm. In the past 1,000,000 years in the heavenly realm, the last traces of the cosmic level appeared in the 4 major organizations. Outside the 4 major organizations, the 3rd level of the black hole level is already the limit. Even among the 10 top gods like the Eternal God Clan, there are only a few who can step into the cosmic level. And most of them joined the 4 major organizations and studied in them. Gabriel said slowly, Captain, the second way you mentioned, is it to join these 4 organizations? Xia Xingchen's eyes were like stars, shining with a strange brilliance. This powerful organization that was dedicated to studying the ultimate truth of the universe, pursuing eternity, dominating the starry sky, and not participating in any disputes, made Xia Xingchen fascinated. That's right. Gabriel nodded. 10 years ago, when I was on a mission, I accidentally saved the life of an energy being. He was seriously injured and eventually died. Before he died, he handed me a badge and told me that this badge was the qualification certificate for participating in the assessment of the Spacetime Academy. It was from him that I learned about the existence of the 4 major organizations in the universe. However, the assessment of the Spacetime Academy is extremely difficult, and my talent is ordinary, so I don't have the confidence to pass this assessment. I want to sell this badge, but I can't bear to waste this opportunity. Therefore. But, Xingchen, you are different. You are the most outstanding human I have ever seen. If it is you, there is a good chance of passing the assessment of the Spacetime Academy. However, there are always unexpected events. The assessment location of the Spacetime Academy is far away from here, thousands of light years away. Along the way, there are many dangers, and your whereabouts have been exposed. The Eternal Protoss will definitely send people to hunt you down. If you can pass the assessment, then everything will be fine. But if you can't pass, you will be killed in the distant and unfamiliar starry sky. Xingchen. Take the first path or the second path, it's your choice. Gabriel looked at Xia Xingchen and said seriously. Chapter 1700 Qianlong Empire. Kahung Star. The alternation of day and night is 40 hours a day. Unconsciously, Xia Xingchen has been thinking for a whole day and night. Take the first path. Or take the second path. Xia Xingchen is still thinking. The first path. With the help of Xiaobei's black hole level power, Xia Xingchen has more than 90% confidence to return to the Milky Way safely. His father and wife are waiting for him on Qianlong Star. The people of the Galactic Empire are also waiting for their savior to return. Xia Xingchen and Jaina have no offspring yet. They are no longer teenagers. It's time for love to blossom and have a child. Xia Xingchen himself misses his hometown and his family very much, and he can't wait to return to the Milky Way. However, returning to the Milky Way now is equivalent to escaping back. Although he can get temporary stability, the threat of the Elder and the Eternal Gods is still there. Once Xia Xingchen returns to the Milky Way, it will be difficult to return to the Heavenly Realm. And the second path. Joining the Spacetime Academy, this road is extremely dangerous. On the one hand, the Elder and the Eternal Gods will definitely use all their strength to prevent Xia Xingchen from joining the Spacetime Academy. On the other hand, the Spacetime Academy is one of the 4 top organizations in the universe, and it is extremely difficult to pass the assessment. As long as he sets foot on this road, even if there is a slight mistake, he will be buried in the sea of stars. The first road looks stable on the surface, but it is actually a slow death. I'm carrying the fate of the entire human race. If I pursue stability, return to the Milky Way, and spend a mediocre life under the admiration of humans. After I die, the thieves of heaven and earth will not die, and mankind will perish sooner or later. The second road, although it is very dangerous, but it is the only chance for mankind. Xia Xingchen stood up with a firm look. He has never been a person who fears challenges. Xia Xingchen has been able to come to this point and become the first celestial being to ascend to the sky. He has always been going against the current, overcoming difficulties, and climbing to the top. Captain, I choose the second road. Thank you for giving me this great opportunity. This kindness, Xia Xingchen, will remember it for the rest of my life. Xia Xingchen bowed to Gabriel to thank him. I was right about you. A good man should fight against the current and waves. Gabriel laughed and patted Xia Xingchen on the shoulder. You don't have to thank me. This opportunity is wasted in my hands. If you can join the Spacetime Academy, you can make the best use of it. Gabriel immediately handed a palm-sized round badge to Xia Xingchen. The badge was grey and there was no energy fluctuation. It was hard to tell that this badge was an important item for the Spacetime Academy assessment. Next, Gabriel told Xia Xingchen all the relevant information he knew about the Spacetime Academy assessment. First of all, the Spacetime Academy assessment is held every 5 years. The next assessment is still half a year away. However, the assessment location is in the Draco Galaxy, which is 170,000 light years away from King Star. 170,000 light years. Xia Xingchen took a breath of cold air. It took him several months to rush from the Milky Way to the Andromeda Galaxy. Half a year, crossing 170,000 light years. Is this possible? 17,000 light years is indeed a very long distance in the celestial realm. Ordinary spacecrafts will take several years to fly. But don't forget, you are a Star Trek mercenary. As long as you pay enough, you can use the Star Trek's space-time transmission device. Well, the cost of transmitting to the Draco Galaxy is about 10 to 20 million points. I believe you can easily pay this money. Gabriel said with a smile. 10 million points. Xia Xingchen blinked his eyes. If he were an ordinary mercenary, he would definitely not be able to pay. However, he is now a wealthy man with a lot of money. He can still easily take out this money. Moreover, to cross 170,000 light years, only 10 million points are needed, which is actually very cost effective. Because if you drive a spaceship, not only will you waste time, but the energy and fuel consumed along the way will also far exceed this number. At this time, Xia Xingchen felt that joining the Star Trek mercenary group did have many benefits. The problem is that the Draco Galaxy is controlled by the Draco Empire, and this empire is a puppet regime supported by the Eternal Gods. If you go to the Draco Empire, it is equivalent to walking into a trap. At that time, you can only rely on yourself to adapt to the situation and try to get through the difficulties. Gabriel said. Dragon Empire. Xia Xingchen's pupils shrank. The power of the Eternal Gods is really huge. They actually control the entire Draco Galaxy. However, I can only go to the Tiger Mountain knowing that there are tigers in the mountain. Seek a chance to survive under their noses. Xia Xingchen will do it without hesitation and will never look back. Xingchen, I can't go with you. If I follow you, I will also hold you back. Carlos whispered. Carlos, Xia Star is handed over to you. Xia Xingchen stepped forward and hugged his friend tightly. The dream fruit planted here is our economic lifeline. I will definitely have a lot of money to spend when I go to the Spacetime Academy. I'll leave the economic aspects to you. I will definitely not let you down. Carlos nodded repeatedly. Captain, Brotherly Long, Sister Xingfeng. Thank you for your care all the time. We will see you later. Xia Xingchen is a decisive person. After saying goodbye, he immediately drove the Star Domain back to the Star Trek headquarters and prepared to jump to the Xianlong Empire. As for the safety of Xia Star, Xia Xingchen was not worried. As long as he left, those dark web killers would abandon Xia Star and continue to target him. What's more, Carlos, Gabriel and others are all Star Trek mercenaries. Xia Star is not far from the Star Trek headquarters. Unless there is a huge profit drive, under normal circumstances, no one dares to attack Xia Star. In short, as long as Xia Xingchen leaves Xia Star will be safe. On Xia Star, everyone watched Xia Xingchen's spaceship leave the planet and turn into a small black dot in the starry sky. Everyone was in a complicated mood, especially Carlos. His eyes flashed red, and he had a feeling that he didn't know when he would meet Xia Xingchen again. Xia Xingchen returned to the Xingi headquarters, exchanged 15 million universe coins for points, and was teleported to the Xianlong galaxy on the same day. According to common sense, the location where the Xingi mercenaries are teleported is confidential. However, it is obvious that there is a traitor inside the Xingi mercenary group. The news that Xia Xingchen fled to the Xianlong galaxy has spread throughout the mercenary group. On the dark web, there are also many news about Xia Xingchen's appearance in the Xianlong Empire. For a time, the entire starry sky was shaken. There are many organizations that are very coveted for Xia Xingchen's bounty, but Xia Xingchen has become a member of Xingi, and they are forced to not take action for face. This time, Xia Xingchen fled to the Xianlong galaxy, which is already outside the sphere of influence of Xingi. Many organizations have sent people to the Xianlong galaxy to hunt down Xia Xingchen. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.